How you guys doing today? I've had a really nice kind of contemplative day today. And I gotta find my key. We're streaming today, I hope you're doing fine. There's so many streams for us to see, but this one here is mine. I hope that you're happy, I hope that you're well. Now come on and join me, watch the world go to hell as we're streaming away. We're streaming today, let's stream today. Hey Crouching, how you doing today, bud? Good to see you. First in the gate, you're just chomping at the bit to get in here. Good to see you, bud. Good to see you. What a wonderfully sort of contemplative day I had today. I was able to sleep in, and you know when you get in that space where you're like in between like a dream space and being awake, and I literally was like in my dream I was trying to get somewhere, and I was late for an appointment, and I like woke up, and for about 5 minutes when I was awake, I was walking around being like, yeah, I gotta get ready, I'm late for my appointment. And then I like really put together that no, I am not missing an appointment with somebody that I met in a dream. That's so funny how that works. I love dream analysis, and I'm one of those people that love talking about dreams. I love talking about dreams. Sigmund Freud, as well as Carl Jung. Hey Vince, how you doing? They really get into dream analysis and do some really make some very interesting commentary on dreams. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get straight away into Mr. David Lynch's report coming from Los Angeles.
Good morning. It's August 18, 2021, and it's a Wednesday. Here in LA, very cloudy. Looks like we got some rain last night. Slight breeze blowing. Around 70 degrees Fahrenheit right now, 21 Celsius. Today I was thinking about James Blake's version of the song Limit to Your Love. This afternoon, it'll be going up to 84 degrees Fahrenheit, 79 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's around 26 Celsius, and it looks like we're going to be having clouds all along the way. No matter, everyone, have a great day.
Right back at you, Mr. Lynch. Thanks for the update. Now, unfortunately, usually I play David Lynch's recommendation, but I have actually figured out how to get rid of copyrighted material so that my stream doesn't get shut down. And no, David Lynch is really on the pulse, and unfortunately, I can't play it. So I'm just going to default to an absolute brilliant one. Sorry if this is a touch loud at the beginning, because there's going to be an audience clapping, so brace for impact. But beautiful song. This is Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World.
I see trees of green. I see them blue for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blessed days, dark sacred nights, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the skies, also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies crying. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah.
An immortal piece by Louis Armstrong. What a wonderful world. That song belongs to Louis Armstrong. And it always will. No one is ever going to be able to do a better rendition. He just captures the joyfulness of being alive, and it's absolutely beautiful. Hey Ruth, how you doing today? Hey Matthias, good to see you. Let's quickly move in. You guys have made some comments here. I'll read them, but let's move in. Everybody pick your number. Pick your number, 1 to 10. I got a 1 here from Crouching, and I got a 5 from Vince.
Here we go for today's number. It's August 18th.
I'm going 2.
2021.
I'm going 2. I'm going 2.
10 balls. Each ball has a number. Numbers 1 through 10.
We got a 3 from Dan Boxes.
Swirl the numbers.
Swirl the numbers.
Pick a number.
Got a 6 from Ruth.
Today's number is
1.
1.
There you go. We got a 1 for Crouching. There you go, bud. And what will tomorrow's number be? We'll find out. Does that put you on the board, buddy? You've won once before. So that's 2 for you, bud. Time to go buy a lottery ticket. Yeah. Today's your lucky day, bud. Today's your lucky day. Doesn't that feel nice? Doesn't it feel nice to be a little bit blessed? I am yet to win one time. Tells you everything you need to know about the luck I have. Okay, so let's talk about your guys' comments quickly. You guys always come in with some really great stuff. Ford's letters are infuriating the public right now. Well, and Ford, I actually have something ready for this. Yeah, Ontario PC fundraising letters labeled invoice, blasted as scam. Look at this thing. They've put an invoice on it, and they're acting like it's a bill that's due, right? This is in clear violation of the Electoral Act. This is election fraud. Like this is a crime. You're sending people a bill from the that looks like an official government document that says invoice on it, right? people are going to fall for this. Like, this is a scam. And it's a really, really obviously an attempt to mislead people in a very blatant, obvious way. You can see the invoice section. Yeah. So we come to the bottom. Here's the actual thing, right? Like, it says invoice on it. And it's got like and it looks exactly, balance due, $300, right? So like, payment instructions in order to process your donation, right? But people are going to fall for this. They're going to think that this is a bill that they have to pay to the government for some reason, right? And there are people who 100% are going to do this. It's clear fraud. It's unethical for sure. And like, what do you expect? What do you expect of these guys, right? This is what you voted for. This is what you voted for. This is what you get. We can, I'll leave that up. Why not? Disappointed there isn't more expressed outrage in the lowering of the CRB. I think it's, Matthias, honestly, I think it's because people really expected it. I think the Trudeau government did a pretty decent job convincing Liberals, especially Liberals, that the CRB and the CERB and all that was temporary, was a temporary measure. And because people don't really understand how government works, and because they think the deficit is actually a thing that they need to be concerned about, instead of just a way to measure spending, you can convince them into believing, oh yeah, you got to get rid of these things because if you keep them, then it's the exact same as a bank loan, right? Oh, we're taking out such a big debt because deficits are the exact same as a business loan, and as long as you think about it that way, and you don't realize that, like, no, the deficit's just a measurement of the spending, and it also measures the surplus, right? So we don't need to lower the CRB, and in my view, the CERB should have been transitioned into a basic income. That would have been very clean and very easy to do. And the number one, like, you know that the Liberals are never going to do a basic income because they basically passed a basic income in a week, and then have done everything they can to dismantle it, and then turn around and tell us that, oh, we can't pay a basic income. Like, you can't just pass a basic income. It's actually much more difficult than you think to do that sort of thing, John. Meanwhile, they passed the CERB in a week. Like, it's such bullshit. And the gullible rubes who vote Liberal, like, it's incoherent what they believe. Oh, we can pass a basic income in a week, but a basic income is too difficult to pass. Like, get the fuck out of here. But the Liberals have done a pretty good job convincing conservatives and Liberals that the CERB was always, and the CRB and all these things were always temporary measures. We have no interest in actually helping people. We are going to sell people back to the capitalist death cult. We are going to continue to double down on these failed policies of neoliberalism. So if you buy into that, then you're going to do what you're going to do. Yeah, Yet Trudeau was heckled and booed. Yet Canada Proud is the page. Yeah. Bunch of people, like, and you're going to see as we move on. We're going to move on to some polling. Abacus Data is doing great polling on this. And yeah, what do we got? Yeah. Right from the Republican Handbook. Yeah. No, they are going to get sued. For sure they're going to get sued. Yeah, the NDP should be all over the CRB lowering, yeah. Well, and he was already talking about that, how the Trudeau Liberals only wanted to give this much and the NDP fought to get that much and all that. So that's a narrative that's coming out of the NDP for sure. I want to believe in Jugmeat, but I think without him towing the line for UEI, he's like, yeah, I agree with you, Matthias. If he doesn't mention it in the debates at least, then I think we can successfully state that Jugmeat is controlled opposition. That's the phrase that we got to start using about Jugmeat and the NDP. That it's controlled opposition. That the capitalists, like, they read this data too. Like, they're taking a look at all this data too. They know what the people are thinking. They know how the populace thinks. And they understand that as the populace turns against the conservatives and the liberals, they need some kind of controlled opposition. And it's very easy to believe that Jagmeet Singh is that controlled opposition, right? It's very easy for me to believe that Jagmeet Singh is controlled opposition. Like, you're telling me CSIS isn't talking to this guy? He's one of the major party leaders, right? Like he has the potential to become the Prime Minister of Canada. They're for sure talking to him, right? Hey, Aga, how you doing? Good to see you. Okay. But yet to be seen, right? Yet to be seen. And a lot does come down to like what the populace demands. The thing that I think is very telling is that the polling sites are not polling the populace on a basic income. They're not even asking them the question. So it's just been omitted from the discourse. It's just not part of the discourse, and people are not being polled on it. Because I think if people were being polled on it, we would see the data, and everybody would be like, yeah, people should have a basic income. People should have access to food and shelter. And especially when you consider that affordability, right, this is from Better Dwelling, but this is an Abacus data poll, affordability is the top issue. The number one issue for Canadians right now is affordability. The second is access to health care. And then the third is climate change and the environment. What's telling in this, most Liberal voters cite the cost of living as the second biggest issue this election, right? So this kind of tells you who these Conservative voters actually are. These are people who are less concerned about their cost of living than the rest of the populace, right? And it isn't by dramatic numbers. I'm not saying that they're like these snooty, high-class people. But Liberal supporters are saying 55% expressing it. Climate change narrowly topped the list with 57% of supporters. So if you're a Liberal voter, climate change is your number one concern. And of course, if you're a Liberal, you think that you're winning against the battle of climate change because of this incrementalism bullshit while your leader buys pipelines. And you really buy into this idiotic, like really moronic statement. Like, yep, we got to keep pumping fossil fuels to defeat climate change. Like, you're a fucking idiot if you believe that. Ugh. Oh, really? I wonder why that's not being asked of the populace? Because they cannot show the populace how much support there actually is for it. They cannot do that. If they show people how much support there is for a basic income, the people will just be like, pass this. We know you can pass the CERB in a week. We know you can pass this legislation. We know the Senate sent a letter to the Parliament saying you should pass a basic income. We know that most of the mayors, including mayors like John Tory, have said that we should pass a basic income. We know that there's mass popular support for it. We're well aware of it. Oh, and in an election where the cost of living is the number one issue, yeah, pass a fucking basic income. But they don't want the populace to understand that. They don't want, like, A plus B equals C. They don't want people, 1 plus 1 equals 2. They don't want people to figure this out, right? Because if people start to figure out that the government can actually create a society that supports all of the citizens, people are then going to go, what's the point of these capitalists exactly? And hey, what is the point of these capitalists? For real, what's the point of these capitalists? They obviously don't give a shit about whether we have food and shelter. They obviously don't give a shit about creating a safe and stable society. They don't even give a shit about their own children. Like, they don't even give a shit about climate change or their own children. Like, what's the point of these capitalists at all? Why are we allowing them to run the society in a free market principle, let chaos reign, death cult structure? What are you fucking talking about? And if you start to poll the populace and show the populace how fucking popular getting rid of these fucking capitalists actually is, they'll start to vote along those lines. So just don't do it. And that's controlled opposition, right? That's controlled opposition. Aga says, did you see the Beaverton for the previous election? They were interviewing the youth and all the kids said that the environment was their biggest concern. Yeah, I wonder why. I can't imagine. We need to solve affordability and poverty. Going down that road encourages leaving our neighbors behind is destined to, end in chaos. Absolutely. And we know that we need to get off fossil fuels. We know we need to shut down the fossil fuel industry. We know, and doing so is going to create hardship. It's going to create hardship across Canada for sure. And right now, the reason why Albertans and Saskatchewaners and Manitobans are voting for Conservatives is because as the Liberals are standing up saying, we're going to decimate your industries, they're not also saying, but we're going to actually help you get through it. So there's this general sense of abandonment that the populists are looking at, being like, these guys are going to fucking abandon us, right? Especially given the history between the Trudeau family and the West, right? Don't fucking kid yourselves. The prairie folk do not like the Trudeau family, right? That is a long, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, like, he flipped a guy off in Manitoba, I think it was. This made headlines and is still talked about today. Trudeau flips off the West, right? Like, if Justin Trudeau genuinely gave a shit about decimating the Conservatives and actually gaining seats throughout the prairies, he would pass a basic income. It would happen instantly. People would suddenly be like, oh, okay, God, thank you. I'm not going to be thrown out onto the streets because of the decline of the industry I rely on. Oh, thank God, right? And then suddenly you can start to go, and to me, the basic income and the environment, like, I could go down this list. Cost of living, what's going to help with that? Basic income. Access to healthcare, what's going to help with that? Basic income. Climate change in the environment, what's going to help with that? Basic income, right? The post-pandemic recovery plan, what's going to happen with that? Basic income. Economic plan for Canada's future, basic income. Taxes, fucking basic income. Important thing to point out here, you can see that taxation has actually fallen pretty low. Taxation's usually a top 3, top 4 issue for Canadians. It's getting lower and lower as people are moving on. Because people are starting to say, like, hey, have we noticed that there's billionaires? Right? Hey, that guy shot himself into fucking space. Don't you think that could be money that we could actually use to actually, like, help people? It's crazy. It's unbelievable. 264 new fires, half considered out of control. Is that here in Ontario, Ruth? Ontario wildfire map. Yeah, like, we're in the midst of, like, this absolutely... This application uses licensed geocore. Please read. Scroll disclaimer. Accept. Yeah, okay. This is looking about the same. Oh, BC. Got it. BC wildfire map. Let's take a look. Always important to key in. Always important. Because, like, these wildfires... Oh, man, we're up 27 this week, plus 8 in the last 2 days. Look at this crazy fucking nonsense. Let's go into Kamloops. Look at if I'm living in Kamloops, dude, like, I'm terrified. Like, I'm starting to say, like, maybe we should get out of here, right? Like if this fire sweeps in, this fire sweeps in, this fire sweeps in, like, look at this. That's scary, dude. That's scary. And, like, you got enormous wildfire events happening all over the place. Ugh. Yeah, it's insane, Vince. You're absolutely right. We're in a period of total madness. Like, and the Liberal Party is standing there. And what's so frustrating about the Liberals is that they're standing there saying they acknowledge all of these problems, right? They're not like the Conservatives. The Conservatives deny that there are problems at all, and they're like, yeah, capitalism's the greatest system in the world. All this got like this wanking bullshit. But the Liberals are acknowledging that there are problems, but their solutions are all incrementalism, right? It's all just like tiny little piecemeal reformist bullshit. And, like, fire doesn't give a shit about your incremental reforms, right? The sun doesn't give a fuck about your incremental reforms. The sun is going to come in and it's going to burn shit down. And your incremental reforms, it's not even going to notice because it's the sun. It doesn't give a fuck at all about your incrementalism. So it makes sense that climate change is a number one issue, right? But, like, we got to start grabbing that lever and just start pulling it down, man. Like, if we're going to do... I, for one, believe that we should nationalize the fossil fuel industry, but none of the leaders are talking that way. So we've got the carbon tax as our number one way. Well, grab that lever and start pulling down, right? It is that straightforward as far as I'm concerned. Can't even begin to solve other problems while this negligence of basic humanity continues to exist. It's very hard to convince a hungry wolf not to eat a henhouse. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. As long as Ford has his servants to fan him while he eats Tim Hortons eggs, he doesn't care what burns around him. Yeah, like, Doug Ford's entire life is just going from his mansion to his work and then back to his mansion. And every so often he'll, like, go to a game and get booed or something, right? Like, he doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, did you hear about the Nova Scotia election? First PC majority in 22 years here. Yep. Bad news for Nova Scotia. Like, bad news for Nova Scotia. That's how it goes. It's Now, that said, there's also like a potential silver lining there, which is to say that it's always good when liberals lose. And for some reason, Atlantic Canada is like liberal stronghold. Even though, like, when I visited Atlantic, I lived in Atlantic Canada for a year, and literally everybody I talked to was an NDPer. It's just that they didn't think their neighbor was an NDPer, right? And so you had a whole bunch of NDP people voting Liberal because they were convinced that their neighbor was also going to vote Liberal. And so for them to go Conservative means that they're bailing on the Liberals, which that's what opens up the door for the next election for the NDP to come in. Yeah, and I we'll see, because sometimes, and like, don't get me wrong, okay? Like, there is still a belief in my heart that a conservative government can come in and do something worthwhile. It can happen. I believe that it can happen. So I'm willing to let these guys hang themselves before I start pounding on the pulpit and hanging them. Yeah, that's why being quiet about your views is shitty. We need to be vocal. Yeah, everyone's going to be vocal when the place is on fire, right? Like, when the towns start to burn down and when shit starts to get real, we're all going to be crying about it. So start practicing. Start practicing. Because, like, people on fire are usually screaming. Okay. Ah, beautiful shot of Ontario. Always reminds us that there's natural beauty in the world. Ugh. Yeah, they're all crooks down there. Well, I mean, the Irvings have huge, like, they own Moncton, they own New Brunswick, right? The Irvings own New Brunswick, and to think that they're not spreading their influence throughout the East Coast, I think, is absurd, right? They absolutely are. They absolutely are. So, okay, guys, so we know what the number one issue is for Canadians, right? Cost of living, access to healthcare, climate change, and the environment, right? Those are, like, your top three, with cost of living being like a big number one by a huge amount, right? Like, just like, boom. So, hey, Onward, how you doing? So, we're going to move in to the newest polling coming from Abacus, okay? So when did this come out? They completed a national survey from August 12th to 16th, okay? With about 30% of the interviews done after the election announcement. So this is kind of like a little bit of a gray area, but people knew that this election was coming for this poll. And so what's fascinating about this, as you see as we go through the data, is that the mood of the country shifted. As soon as they realized, oh, okay, we're going into an election, well, things have changed. And it's interesting to see. Generally speaking, do you think things are headed in the right direction? So the last time people were asked, 46% of people were saying, yeah, things are going in the right direction. Now it's 41%. So down 5 points. This is keeping in trend with how the rest of the world and the USA is seeing how things are going in the right direction, right? That there is a general decline. And I assume that after people start to key in to the Afghanistan debacle, which I've got a little bit about the Afghanistan debacle, and we'll go through that, that people are starting to realize, oh, hey, this is what we're doing is not great. What we're doing is not great. From the Twitter account, Canadian Polling, new poll just dropped. Oh, let's take a look at that. Canadian Polling Twitter. The new. This is great. This is great. So federal polling, they're showing. Look at this. That's interesting. Okay, so the Liberal Party, 34%. That's +1. That's within the margin of error. Okay. Anytime you see like a plus or a -1, it's basically even. It doesn't really matter because that's within the margin of error. The Conservative Party of Canada, 31, that's down 3 points. That's actually a huge problem for the Conservatives. Being down 3 points right now, and they are trending down in a big way, as you'll see. But the NDP, +5, and this is actually keeping in pace with the data coming out of Abacus, as you see, right? Are we becoming more or less worried? Look how dramatically this swings, right? Look how dramatically this swings. People are becoming more worried. Whoop, 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 less worried. I think the housing crisis is really starting to hit lots of people. Even wealthy families are starting to realize how broken this system is. That our job is to connect the abandonment of the homeless and the poor and people in poverty with the rising house costs. That to connect those two things together and to forge an alliance with these people who are trying to buy houses, who are trying to get into the housing market, right? Connect. And by connecting that narrative and by connecting a singular narrative, we find equality with each other, right? Like, traditionally, the power structure has done a really good job of separating the middle class, right, from the lower class by offering them things like houses, right, actually rewarding them in some way for their effort and their work. But now the capitalist system is so fraudulent and it's so false and it's fallen apart so easily that even these middle class people can't afford the houses any longer. And so now doctors, lawyers, and engineers are going to start connecting with like grocery store cashiers. And if that starts to happen in this capitalist system, you're going to see some big fucking shit go down. But we've got to work to do that. Because these guys are not... The capitalists are going to do everything they can to keep us separated. They got to divide and conquer us. That's how it works. Onward, the first hurricane of the season parked on top of Atlanta so long my roof started leaking. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, bud. At least the hurricane didn't run Florida man up here. Yeah. So excited. The debates this time around, Vince. So Vince says, I'm so excited for the debate. Can't wait for the CERB, CSB to be debated between Trudeau and Jagmeet and the foreign policy. These debates are going to matter more than previous elections because of the shortness of the election. That Canadians don't really, because most Canadians aren't tuning into me, but they should be, waka waka. In any case, so Canadians don't really have that much by way of information, and people are feeling fairly isolated. And so these debates are going to be a big, big, big moment. And last election, the debate was the beginning of an ascension for the NDP. So the debates happened, and I'm going to live stream the debates. I'm going to have the debates, and we're going to watch them all together. So please tune in for that. I forget what date offhand the debate actually is. If anybody knows offhand, when is the Canadian election debates? The 8th and the 9th. Perfect. The 8th and the 9th. So I'm going to be at the 8th and the 9th. I'm going to be streaming both of those, hopefully, when... I'll look into that. So the getting back to Abacus data, is the worst still to come, right? You could see once the vaccine came in, people were feeling pretty okay. The worst behind is the green line. Now that's in a steady decline. The worst is to come declined, and now it's increasing again. And the level of uncertainty is the highest indicator. People are unsure. There's a lot of uncertainty, right? You take a look. Back here, it's down in sort of 30%. Now it's up in 40, almost 50%. So upwards of half the Canadian populace is like, I don't know how to answer that question. And that's not good. It's not good to have an uncertain population going into an election, especially when you see, like, it's almost equal in regards to the people who are saying the worst is behind, but the worst is yet to come. Government approval has remained steady, interestingly, right? People are pretty happy overall with how the government's been doing. Impression of Justin Trudeau, check this out. Big uptick in negativity. That his positive popularity has remained pretty stagnant, or pretty steady, I should say, not stagnant. But his unpopularity has ticked up. Right now is the most unpopular Justin Trudeau has been in a year. And maybe ever. Right now. The impression that people have of Justin Trudeau, he's at his most unpopular right now. The Wonka ads worked. Maybe, dude, do not, like, people really made fun of that Wonka ad, and that was the gift that kept on giving. The conservatives had to pull it down from their Twitter because it violated copyright, all kinds of stuff. But I think that ad was effective. Even for people who are like, that was a bunch of stupid bullshit, I think that ad was effective. I think it worked. I think people watched it, and even if they made fun of the conservatives for doing it, I think the point landed. I think people do see Justin Trudeau as kind of a spoiled prince brat. I think people do are concerned, like, and the prevailing point, which they put they bookended it, which is the only reason this election is happening is because Justin Trudeau wants his majority, right? That's it. He's not interested in getting a mandate. He's not interested in any of this. He wants his majority. That's what he's doing. And so I agree. I think the Wonka ads actually worked. I hope to see more like that, honestly. That ad was great. What a phenomenal ad. What a phenomenal ad. Angus Reid Institute also shows 58% of Canadians disapprove of Trudeau. Yeah, as opposed to 38% who approve of his leadership. Yeah. And this all is flowing into exactly what I've been saying this whole time. Once elections drop, Canadians tune in, right? That election season is when Canadians actually tune in, do some research, and people's opinion. There's a difference between a government that's like trying to do its thing. What's your opinion of the government that's doing its thing? And what's your opinion of the government now that you have the opportunity to change it? And Canadians get more skeptical, and they get more hard-nosed, and they get more in. That's why elections here in Canada are so fascinating to watch, because people's opinions change. They can change dramatically. We've seen them change dramatically. Like here in the city of Toronto, the mayoral race between Olivia Chow and John Tory, literally John Tory was down at about like 30% support, and Olivia Chow was at 60% support for months and months and months and months and months. And then the election drops, and about 4 weeks out from the election, they literally flipped, right? They like literally flipped. And I think that's tied to a moment where the Now magazine asked Olivia Chow, what's your vision for Toronto? And she responded, I don't think it's the responsibility of a politician to have a vision. And I think most people just went, oh, and they just booted her. You should probably have a vision if you're going to get into politics. Just saying. Just saying. Okay, let's continue on. Jugmeat has maintained, right? 40 to 39% is within the margin of error, so we can say that that's pretty steady support for him. Same with his unfavorability, so the impression of Jagmeet Singh has remained pretty much the same. Same holds true in my view of Aaron O'Toole. That you could say, oh, his favorability has dropped, but not really. Like, it's pretty steady. Same with his unfavorability. This is the most important one right here. How does this translate into vote intention? How would you vote tomorrow? Look at this drop. This is a precipitous drop. 37% were going to vote for Liberals literally 6 days ago. Now it's 33%, right? A drop of 4% is well outside the margin of error. That is a precipitous drop over a 1 week period. The Conservatives have remained about steady. Oh, and also it's worth pointing out that this drop is about as bad as it's ever been for the Liberals, right? They had a 32% over here at one point, but this 33%, this takes them well out of minority territory, majority territory. This takes them well out of majority territory. Now the Liberals, in my view, and if the next week's poll comes out and they're even steady, if they're even steady along this line, the question the Liberals are going to start asking is, okay, like, how many seats are we going to lose? That's what they're going to start talking about. Because this kind of drop, and if they experience another drop, that's enormous. That's a huge problem. In the meantime, the trend for the NDP is up. Again, like 2 points is not that dramatic, right? And that can sort of steady up. But other polls are showing the NDP are up. The Bloc Québécois, about steady, and the Green Party, of course, about steady. But the Green Party has been in like a steady kind of subtle decline over time. This right here, though, this is the tell. This is the tell that Canadians are looking at the Liberals and they're skeptical, and they're not willing to just hand over a majority. They're not willing to just hand over a majority. So this, in my view, is an extremely positive outcome right now, that Canadians are taking a hard look at these guys and are making decisions based on what they are going to be offered, in my view, right? They're not just voting willy-nilly. And I could break this down by region, but I think no surprises here, honestly. Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, more conservative. BC is a kind of a three-way tie, honestly, in BC. Quebec, liberal, more liberal by a lot. Ontario, liberal. Kind of surprising there isn't more NDP support in Ontario. That's always been somewhat surprising to me, you know? And of course, Atlantic Canada, a big liberal stronghold for no reason that I can decipher. If somebody could actually tell me why Atlantic Canada gives a shit about these Liberals at all, I would love to hear it, because I've never understood it. It's just never been something that I've been like, oh yeah, the Liberal Party did this, and that's what helped Atlantic Canada. Like, it's just, it doesn't actually make sense to me. Aga says, or they will be trying to buddy up with another bigger party, either the CPC or the NDP. Do you mean, I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Aga, sorry. So this is a really hopeful poll in terms of the outcome of this election, simply because, again, Canadians are not just going to hand the Liberals the majority. That was my big fear going into this election, that Canadians were just gonna hand over the majority to the Trudeau government and just walk away. I don't see that happening. So we are headed to, in my view, a Liberal minority currently. Early days. The debates are still to happen, which we'll be live streaming here September 8th and September 9th. So come on down. Watch the debate together. We'll all have a good time, and we'll all talk about it as it's happening. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Aren't you looking forward to that? I'm super fucking looking forward to that. That's going to be great. It's going to be great. Yeah, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Give me some money down in the description below. Yeah. Okay. That's the clip for sure. Okay. Can I get rid of this? I'm going to leave this up. So, and the NDP is swinging hard, right? The NDP has promised to start the process of creating a crown corporation to ensure the delivery of quality, affordable telecom services to every community. This is actually enormous. This right here is enormous, because the NDP have done this kind of thing before provincially. In Manitoba, for example, the NDP came into power and they nationalized the car insurance program, right? That the way the government works, it's such a scam, the way car insurance works here in Canada. So the government says you have to have car insurance, but then the whole thing is privatized. So what do you think these guys do, right? They all collude and get together and they just jack the price up way higher than it needs to be. And so the NDP, and this is like 25 years ago now, ran on a platform of, we're going to nationalize it. And they did. And what happened? The price of car insurance dropped dramatically, right? They did the same thing with phone services. Again, prices dropped dramatically, right? So them doing this is a no-brainer. The NDP have done it before. They know how to do it. It's been successful. We have clear examples of it being successful. And then on top of that, they can't actually screw it up, because Canada already pays the most of all other countries in the what's called the OECD countries, the first world countries. We pay the most and we get the worst services. So you can only go up, right? You can only go up. Either you maintain the level of service and it gets cheaper, or service goes up Or maybe you can get kind of a both. Very unlikely that suddenly service is going to get worse because it's already the worst. And it's very unlikely that it's going to get more expensive because it's already the most expensive, right? So this, to me, is how the NDP is actually planning on gaining some traction. Because this is a very popular policy that doesn't directly confront the structural problems that Canada is facing outside of the telecom industry, right? This still allows Robellis to exist. This still allows all of these guys to exist, but they're going to create their own separate entity, a crown corporation, to deliver its own telecom service, which I think is necessary at this stage of the game, given how fraudulent and corrupt the Robellis, and that's Rogers, Bell, and Telus for people who aren't in Canada. They're three corporations that are essentially allied with one another and owned by the same people in order to jack up our prices and keep things low, right? So, yeah, it's really, really... NDP campaign launches at 8. I'll leave and let you know tomorrow how it goes. Oh, okay. Good to know, Vince. Did the Liberals ever do that thing where they give rural areas internet towers for net access? I thought that was something they were doing. Probably not. Probably not. I'm happy to be corrected on that, but yeah, he was the only one to bring up affordable housing for working class during his presser. Yeah. Yeah, the Liberals are absolute trash. Yeah. Yeah, they're complete trash. Like they suck. They suck really, really bad. Oh yeah, I got to show this one again. This is some cringy bullshit right here.
It is exactly the example of the kinds of things you need to do to counter the she-cession and turn it into a she-covery.
Like, fuck you. Like, fuck you. This, like, cynical use of feminism, right? This cynical usage of like, she-cession and she-covery. Like, this is fucking cringy and embarrassing. Like, exactly. Like, this is fucking embarrassing. Like, I want to meet the people who are like, yeah, she-cession, she-covery, yes, queen, right? Like, I really genuinely want to meet the people who hear this and are like, yeah, instead of being like, that is cringy. Like, that is some cringy, embarrassing bullshit that your national leader is trying to, like, turn this economic issue into, like, a gender issue or, like, an inclusivity issue or any of this kind of stuff. Like, fuck off. Fuck off. People are getting kicked out of their houses, right? People can't buy homes. The price of goods is skyrocketing. The cost of rent is skyrocketing. The cost of living is going through the roof, and you're walking around saying she-cession and she-covery. Fuck off. You're not serious. If you're walking around saying this shit, you're not serious. This is something that, like, a fucking unserious cartoon critter actually says. Get the fuck out of here with this shit. And this is coming from somebody like, I'm pro-feminist, I'm pro all this kind of stuff. But why you hate the woman? Exactly. No, it's 100% because he's jamming it into a place where it doesn't belong in the most cynical way. That this is absolute, what you're seeing right here, this is the liberal cynicism that everybody talks about. He doesn't give a fuck about feminism, he doesn't give a fuck about any of that shit. He doesn't give a fuck about any kind of, like, gender movement, nothing like that. He doesn't give a fuck, only insofar as he can use it for his political gains, and this right here proves it. Like, get the fuck out of here, Justin Trudeau. You cynical, like, fucking loser. Ugh. Talk about economics. But he can't. He can't talk about economics, right? Because neoliberalism is a complete farce. It's a total fraud. It's completely failed. It has no support. Everybody knows it. Nobody's walking around being like, yeah, neoliberal economics, that's really working. Because it's not real. There is no such thing as neoliberal economics. Neoliberalism is not an economic system. It's a religious system, and it's a religious system of a death cult. He really reminds me of Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg. Very sociopathic, probably killed a couple of people, got away with it. Oh, He also always has a guy with a beard and a turban? What? What? Alright. Yeah, the Liberal leader's promise to finish the fight against COVID-19 ignores his own commitment to slash support for unemployed workers, right? So what the Trudeau government is doing, Justin Trudeau is promoting COVID-19 benefits for struggling workers that he's already cut, right? So Trudeau came along, cut people's services, and now he's going to campaign on reestablishing the services that he just cut. Right? 1 step forward, 2 steps back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's the Liberal Conservative Alliance. And Justin Trudeau is literally running to reestablish benefits that he himself already cut. like what the fuck? Yeah, exactly, Ninetails. Exactly. Talk about all the guns you're selling Israel. Talk about all the guns you're selling Israel, for God's sakes. And we were involved in the Afghanistan war. We were selling weapons to the Afghanistan war. This failed war that has 100% collapsed. And now the traditional enemies, the people who we were literally there to defeat, literally just walked into Kabul and took the place over, right? Here's a great tweet from Tory, the dumb lefty, Canadian radical. Housing bills and motions voted on Parliament. How the parties vote on housing policy. You can see the NDP right down the line. They're like, yeah, let's do something about it. Where are the Conservatives? Nay on most of it. And the Liberals are nay on the rest of it. And hey, isn't it funny how it works, right? That the one thing that the Liberals are like yay about, the Conservatives say nay, and the one thing that the Conservatives say yay about, the Liberals say nay, because they're allies. They work together. Like, this lockstep that the Liberal Conservative Alliance has with one another. I thought that was only Shia LaBeouf. Did Shia LaBeouf kill a dog? Did Shia LaBeouf kill a dog? Don't tell me that Shia LaBeouf killed a dog. That's the saddest shit. I actually rather like Shia LaBeouf. I gotta be straight with you. I rather like Shia LaBeouf. Like, he's weird. Don't get me wrong. He's a weird dude. But I rather like him as a person. And I find his journey to be fascinating. Like, he's literally like one of these child stars that kind of lost his mind a little bit. But like, remember the do it. Remember that? It was all him. Anyway, I'm not going to derail this into Shia LaBeouf territory. Yeah, Canada's embarrassing climate record is the worst of G7 nations. Like, amongst liberals, their number one concern amongst liberals is climate change. The liberals have been a complete failure. If you've voted liberal in the past, thinking that the liberals give a shit about climate change, guess what? They're the worst of the G7 nations. They don't give a fuck about climate change. They just give a fuck about convincing you that they give a fuck about climate change. The National Observer is outright reporting. It's the worst of the G7 nations. Emissions have only gone up. The changes that they're putting in are ineffective. They're not working. This incrementalism that they're trying to do is a failure. Right? And they're not standing up on the world stage genuinely saying to their American brothers and sisters, we have to stop. Like, they're not saying that. This is just business as usual with just this layering of, like, deception, as it's always been. Right? That the deceit and the rot are at the root of the issue. That we could resolve this problem. That we can resolve this problem. But we can't resolve it if we keep believing grifters and liars who are literally doing nothing about it except lie to you to try to convince you that they're doing something about it. And yet, we're supposed to believe them as they buy a pipeline, as they release tweets saying we have to keep pumping fossil fuels to get a green economy, right? Which is like saying we have to keep doing heroin to get off heroin. And in the end, the result is that we have the worst record of the G7 nations. What the fuck are you voting for? Right? What the fuck are you voting for? Get the fuck out of here, stupid liberals. Yeah, but we're boasting that we're peacekeepers while selling them weapons. Exactly. Oh, keep Milo away from Obama. Liberals and cons and PPC are just right-wing, period. Yeah. Capitalist billionaire death cult controls us. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm starting to see this death cult rhetoric is beginning to take hold a little bit more. Because I call them a capitalist death cult. Like, I call them a capitalist death cult. And so here's a tweet. Yeet the rich, right? Hey Malaniki. Someone at my mom's workplace who has COVID and was on a ventilator for more than a week up until earlier today joined a Zoom meeting from the ICU because her boss told her she needed to start working remotely as soon as she was off the ventilator. Capitalism is a death cult. Welcome aboard, Malaniki. Welcome aboard. Capitalism is a death cult. It's structured to kill us. It's structured to destroy us. It's structured to exhaust us. It's structured to enslave us, right? That's how capitalism is structured. It's structured to destroy us. It's not structured to spread riches and spread the benefit and become sustainable and any of that. That's not how capitalism works. Capitalism is a fire. Capitalism is a fire, and if you let it out of the fireplace, it's going to sweep on through and burn everything down, right? And then when it's out of stuff to burn down, it'll disappear. The last action of the capitalist death cult is to kill itself. It's unbelievable to watch. And watching it in real time, right? John, I know you care a lot about climate change topic. Here's another treat by Serge Tankayan. Sky is over. Fantastic. Let's go. I'll put that up when I need to take a break, bud. But let's get it searched up. Serge Tankayan. What a sky is over. And just to make sure, I'm doing this now because I don't want to get hit. I can only find like a live version, bud, that I can actually play. So, okay, I'll just leave that when I need to take a break. I'll get to it. And a third of Canadians say they're house poor, and a fifth regret their purchase, right? Like, half of Canadians can't cover their expenses without more debt, right? Like, at some stage in the game, we are just literally walking around shouting the rent is too damn high. Like, that's it. Yeah, sorry then, Crouching, I can't play it because I'll get hit with a copyright. Yeah, this is just getting to be like, are you kidding me? Half of Canadians can't cover their expenses without taking on more debt. That means your system's a failure. That means your system's a complete and total failure, right? That means that our entire economy is no different than the enslavement camps that occurred in the Virginia coal mines during the colonial period, right? That we're sending people to work, they're working full time, and they're turning around and saying that they can't cover their expenses without taking on more debt. And who are they taking that debt out from? Oh, the people who are paying the wages. Are you seeing the scam? Do you understand how this whole thing is a total grift and a complete and total scam? That they want you to fall into debt. They want you to be enslaved to their system. Are you beginning to understand that the entire thing is structured so that you have to do all the work while they do fucking nothing? They take all the profit and they plunge you into debt while it's happening? Are you starting to put together that this is the intentional structure of the system? That this is how it's supposed to be? And and we all keep voting for it? We all keep going to the polls and we keep voting for it? Half Canadians can't cover their expenses without more debt. That's a failed system. That's a failure. The system doesn't work. It's a complete and total failure down to the foundations, down to the ground itself. And if you're sitting there walking around saying like, oh yeah, no, the wealth will just trickle down or any of that kind of stuff, you're delusional. You're completely fucking out to lunch. While half of your brothers and sisters are being plunged into debt. Get fucked. Get fucked. And these are the homeowners. These are the homeowners. This is your supposed quote-unquote middle class that doesn't actually exist. There's no fucking middle class in Canada. We're all slaves to this capitalist death cult. The only difference is that some of us are like doing the work in with our hands, where we're providing services, acting as cashiers and stock people and actually growing food. And then there's another lot that are just shuffling papers around, right? And then we get separated into blue collar and white collar so that we can fight each other while the capitalist death cult walks away with all the money that we're making for them. Do you see how stupid this fucking system is? And you keep voting for it. Why? Stop voting for the capitalist death cult. It's really straightforward. Like, stop voting liberal, stop voting conservative. Stop. Full stop. These guys are working to fucking abandon you. They are allies. They are not interested in helping you. They are interested in convincing you that they're interested in helping you. There's zero evidence to show that they give a fuck at all. Stop. Stop. The world would be a better place if the rent too damn high guy won. Yeah, no kidding, eh? I'd vote for that guy. The rent is too damn high. Also, he knows karate, right? He can karate chop climate change. Yeah, it's just depressing now. Yeah, it's incredible. Like, I mean, there is hope on the horizon. Like, stuff like this is a bit hopeful. The idea that people are like, no, we're not just going to give the liberals a majority just cuz. The rent is absurd and projected to get exponentially higher, as it's always been, yeah. And housing costs are going to be the same. And it's all for the same reason. Like, it's all for the same reason, right? That there are billionaires in the society, right? You're not competing with, like, it's not you, a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, right? Competing with your other doctor, lawyer, engineer friends, right? It's not you, a guy who works in, like, the tech industry, competing with other people in the tech industry, right? You are competing every single time with billionaires. And you will always lose against billionaires. Every single time. Because a billionaire can always outbid you. And they're doing it with their fucking pocket change. They're doing it with money that they don't even care about. They're doing it with money that they just like could lose and it doesn't even matter to them. And why are they doing it? Because they know that the system is collapsing. And how do they know the system is collapsing? Because they're the ones collapsing it. They know it's collapsing. They're aware it's collapsing. And so they're buying up all of the resources, all of the land, all of the housing, all of the stuff that they can, so that when the capitalist system collapses, they can be the kings as we move forward into neo-feudalism, which is exactly what we're doing. And people who keep voting liberal and keep voting conservative want it that way. Obviously they do, or else they wouldn't vote for them. Right? Like, it's extremely straightforward at this point. And the people who are walking around being like, no, we just need to introduce inclusionary zoning, and we just need to introduce a small incremental change, have zero respect for the fact that their country has been taken over by billionaires who literally do not give a fuck about your zoning, who literally do not give a fuck about your small incrementalism, who literally do not give a fuck whatsoever, because all it means is that instead of outbidding you by $100,000, they need to outbid you by $200,000. And because they're a billionaire, that's irrelevant to them. These people who are walking around being like, a house costs $1 million. Oh, wow. $1 million is nothing to a billionaire. $1 million is fucking nothing to a billionaire. They don't give a fuck about that, right? They can buy 100 houses at $1 million a pop, and that's only a tenth of their wealth if they have $1 billion, right? Like, we need to start getting it through our fucking heads that the core issue that we are facing as a society is that we've allowed billionaires to exist. Right? We've allowed billionaires to exist at all. And that as long as the billionaires exist, this society will perpetually fall into decline. Constantly. Because we're constantly restructuring ourselves to subserviate ourselves to a group of people who do not give a fuck about us at all. They don't care about us at all. 0%. They do not give a fuck about us. The only time they care about us is when we stop working for them. And that's the reason they don't want to help people. And that's the reason they don't want to create a stable society. And that's the reason they don't want the government to be involved. Is because if we created a stable society where people were doing well, where there was government involvement and we had social services, the capitalists would lose power. And that's what this is all fucking about. They want to be the kings of a shit hill that'll blow up because of climate change. That's what they want. These people are fucking sociopaths, grifters, who do not give a fuck about their own families and their own children, and are happy to walk out the door of their death and leave a wasteland behind them because it doesn't matter to them. These guys are psychopaths, and you keep voting for them. Stop. It's really fucking easy. Just stop. And if you can't bear to vote NDP or Green or any of this, just don't vote. Just do us that favor, sit down, shut up, don't participate. Yet the same scam of wages and enslavement of workers is happening in Portugal with the avocado growers and the workers from India and Bangladesh. Absolutely. I mean, it keeps working, right? It keeps working. Like, why should they stop this grift if it continues to work? It's exactly how the liberals operate, right? Why actually do anything if just promising to do stuff works, right? Like, if my boss came to me and said, hey, John, can I get you to do this job? And I said, yeah, sure, boss. And then didn't. And then he came in and said, hey, John, did you do that thing? And I said, nah. And then he said, well, can you make sure that you do it? And I said, yeah. And then he turned around and left. And then that continued perpetually forever. Why would I ever do that? Why would I? He's paying me to do nothing. Just like we pay these liberals to do nothing, right? Why would I ever do anything? As long as you're willing to accept a promise instead of something actual, why would they do it? And this is like the liberal, like, there's a mental illness amongst liberals where they're literally willing to accept this from these fucking grifters over and 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 over again. Like, I just can't imagine, like, oh yeah, they're promising pharmacare. Yeah, they're promising pharmacare like they did for the last 10 elections. Yeah! Like, this is where we're at with these fucking dumbass liberals. It's exhausting. Need a new party that actually represents the oppressed. I mean, voting NDP is in my view, going to be good enough at this stage in the game because it scares the shit out of these guys. Like, it's going to scare the shit out of these guys. Especially the conservatives. Right? What's going to scare these white supremacist neo-fascists more than a brown guy with a turban on and a big giant beard gaining support? That's going to scare the shit out of these fucking white supremacists. Maybe actually make them start thinking like, maybe we actually need to take care of people. Maybe abandoning people with a death cult ideology isn't working. So it's not just in Canada capitalism is failing, it's all over the world, because capitalism is designed to fail. It's structurally designed to fail. That and I can't express this with enough force. Capitalism as an economic system is structured to fail. That's what it does. It's embedded in the structure. Like, you can see it. It's becoming obvious. It's becoming obvious. It's no longer theoretical, right? People who have literally sacrificed their entire lives to work a job that they were told was going to buy them a house can't, right? That's structural. That's on purpose. It's supposed to happen. That's capitalism, baby, right? People work their whole lives and they can't pay their bills. Half the population has to go into debt to pay their fucking bills. It's a failure of a system from the outset. And capitalism, the only way it ever perpetuated itself was by literally enslaving people, right? That when capitalism begins, they enslave the African continent and get the African slaves to do all their work for them, while literally committing a genocide against the First Nations people to steal their land. So stolen labor, stolen land. That's how capitalism works. And if it can no longer enslave populations and steal land, then it can't work. Because that's how the system works. That's the structure of capitalism. Capitalism's great, it's so efficient. Fucking idiots. I'm going to have to mail you that punching bag, John. Oh, God, please do. I do need something like that, man. Singh promised a 20% tax on the wealthy. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. As soon as some people start making six figures, they start having that mentality. Yeah, it's a mental illness. Like, we've tracked this. There are universities that have studied it. The wealthier you get, the less empathetic you become, right? It's a form of mental illness. That and a reason why accruing wealth is actually dangerous, and a big reason why billionaires are dangerous, because billionaires are sociopaths. Like, they are, by definition, they are. They literally don't know what the world is like anymore. They're literally disconnected from everything, right? You can see it happen. That the wealthier you get, the more sociopathic you become. And this is what all of the evidence says. This is what all of the studies show, that the wealthier you make somebody, the more detached from reality and the more sociopathic they become, and the more they believe that it was all them. I'm the reason I'm a billionaire. They've literally done studies where they had people play a game and they literally took a wad of cash and gave it to someone at the beginning of the game, obviously unbalancing the arrangement. And the person who wins the game because they have the most money, because it was given to them, genuinely argues that, no, I'm a strategic mastermind. Like, get the fuck out of here. Excuse me while I pour out the water that's leaking through my roof. Dude, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that, Onward, that shit's happening to you. That's tough, man. Are you renting, or is it your own house? Did you buy? Yeah, but John, I might be a billionaire someday. What a grift, eh? Like, the people who genuinely believe that. Oh, it's like, oh, wow. It's incredible. It's incredible. What absolutely. Even to buy into the grift is the kind of telling of the individual. Yeah. Oh, trust me, John, I haven't voted Liberal in literally 5 to 6 years. Never voted Conservative even once in my life. Good for you, bud. Nine Tails, I got in a whole thing on Facebook with people against Serbs saying, get back to work. It's like, y'all attack poor people who need Serb and not the oppressing class idiots. Sit down. Yeah. And like, there's a mania in our society. We have defined work in this society means enslave yourself to the capitalist death cult. That's what work is defined as. And if you attempt to find work outside of that framework, right, you're called lazy, you're called parasitic, even if that work is something extremely beneficial. And there's all kinds of examples of work that doesn't pay because the capitalist death cult doesn't give a shit about it, right? Like raising children doesn't pay, right? Volunteering at homeless shelters doesn't pay, right? None of this. Pissed off Canadian affluenza. I like that. That's really good. That's really good. Yeah, like Richard Wolff says, if capitalism was a roommate, you'd move out years ago. Yeah, it's insane. Like, it's insane. And we're going to experience another economic collapse. Like, the economic collapse that's coming is going to make every economic collapse before it look like baby's first economic collapse. Like, this economic collapse is going to be professionally done by the professionals who know how to collapse an economy. It's going to be hellish. It's going to be hellish. And the people who are walking around saying, like, just get a job are fucking nightmare sociopathic death cultists. They're going to be so disconnected from reality. They're going to be so fucking insane that it's just going to look outrageous. And if we give the liberals their majority and the economic collapse happens then, get fucked. Get fucked. Every single one of us are going to get fucked. People making six figures mad, they got to pay $4K in taxes. Must be those CERB recipients, not Galen Weston and Air Canada getting billions in bailout stimulus, which they instantly send offshore. Exactly, right? Like, if you're illiterate, you can make whatever claim you like. Like, this is what I just find myself saying to these guys. Like, if you're illiterate, then you can say what you like, right? And they don't know what's going on. They don't understand what their society looks like. That their whole life has literally been just go between house and work and house and work and house and work. They don't read. They just watch sports and drink beer, right? And then they tell us, just get a job. Just get a job. Right? And you say to them things like 40% of homeless people have a job, and they just go, just get a job. Just get a job. Right? Or just get a better job. Like this childish illiteracy. And I just say it to these people now. Like, just, if you're illiterate, you can say what you like. That's it. And then they get all huffy, and you're just like, okay, who gives a fuck what you think? All right. I am going to get into some Afghanistan stuff, but as I always promise myself, 7 o'clock has come and gone, so I'm going to play this song because I think that it is beautiful, and I like it. This is entitled Antarctica is Covered in Ice. Am I screwing up? Can you tell that I'm... There we go. I figured it out. I got there. Got asked a question by my niece who's 5 years old. What's the world gonna look like when I'm old? I looked up at the crimson smoky sky. I thought, what's the harm in telling one more lie? I said, everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice. And everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? The burning sun won't leave a paper trail. Why work so hard if it's too big to fail? And what's the point of feeding this machine if it won't make the world in our dreams where everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets? You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice. And everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? And I know one day my maker I will meet, when death's sweet kiss comes to sweep me off my feet. I hope by then we've learned a little more. I'd like to leave this place better than before, where everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice. And everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? When everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? And I genuinely believe it. I genuinely believe it. I genuinely believe that we can do it. All we have to do is stop. All we have to do. We have to accept the consequences of stopping. CG A minor F, you got it, Onward. You got it. Aga, I have to say it because I've been thinking about it for quite some time. I like this song, but I can't accept the lie to the child. Why can we do that, but criticize others when they do it? You know, because I'm just a fucking human. I'm just a human. Maybe I don't have it in me at that moment to explain to a 5-year-old that we're fucking abandoning them. Right? Also, I gotta make the song work, dude. I gotta introduce the chorus somehow. Right? And I also think that the phrase is, what's the harm in telling one more lie? Right? That the phrase assumes and has built into it an indictment, right? An indictment of how we have operated as a society. That it's one more lie. What's the harm of telling one more lie? That we have up to this point told a large series of lies. So let's just continue that, I suppose, right? And lie about what the society is actually going to look like. And this, in my view, is a way to critique the society without nailing him on the nose about it, because it's me personally doing it, right? And so I completely know where you're coming. Like, we should not lie to our children. Like, we should not lie to our children, but we are lying to our children, and I think that line highlights the reality of that, and that we should stop. And I hope one day we'll grow a little more. I'd like to leave this place better than before. And one of those things is probably maybe stop lying. I definitely hear you, though. I definitely hear you. And I mean, we all tell little lies, right? Like, we all tell little lies. And there's a lot of lying that goes on in regards to the climate change conversation. Like, the whole thing is built on just the back of lies. And, yeah, conservatives, just capitalist Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. People making 6 figures mad because they got to pay $4K in taxes. Must be those CERB recipients, not Galen. Oh, I already read that. But it's still true. Like, yeah, I don't get it. Like, you can... Jimmy Dore, actually. I got a Jimmy Dore clip here. I know Jimmy Dore is something of a controversial figure on here, but he really nails it here. At one point, he says, you could give $1,000 a month to every family in Los Angeles, and it would cost $7.6 billion to do. The Americans have spent $2 trillion in a failed war in Afghanistan. Like, I'm going to play this when I go onto a break. So, here is the transcript of the Taliban's first news conference in Kabul, right? One of the key things that they are saying is The group previously declared an amnesty across Afghanistan and urged women to join its government, trying to calm nerves. And what's the key phrase? It looks like we have pardoned anyone, all those who have fought against us. We don't want to repeat any conflict anymore again. We want to do away with the factors for conflict. Therefore, the Islamic Emirate does not have any kind of hostility or animosity with anybody. Animosity have come to an end, and we would like to live peacefully. We don't want any internal enemies and any external enemies. We'll see how real that is, but they're talking a game of peace. That's what they want. That this whole transcript, the whole time, they're very much. I feel like this picture kind of does speak the intentions, right? That they're coming into the government with a hand extended and hoping that the rest of the world takes it. Beautiful opportunity for China to get involved here in Afghanistan to build into the Belt and Road Initiative. Beautiful opportunity for the Afghanistan people to start rebuilding their society and their culture. And the more I learn about Afghanistan, the more I see that lots and lots and lots of Afghani people, even people who are not necessarily supportive of the Taliban, are seeing them as a way to kind of cleanse the Afghan of the American culture, right? That the Western culture is going to get swept away and they're going to return to their roots, right? They're going to return to their Islamic roots and they're going to build a society on those roots. And once the society is built on those roots, then you can start discussing reform. Then you can start talking about, like, one of the funny things that is happening. One of the funny things that's happening, if you ask me about is everybody's critiquing them for women's rights. They're so behind and all this kind of stuff. And my thinking is okay, well, when exactly were the Afghanis supposed to have this women's rights movement? Okay, up until literally the 1920s, Afghanistan was ruled by a monarchy. Okay, so still a monarchy up to 1920. So the same time that the universal suffragette movement here in Canada was getting women the vote, right? Afghanistan was getting rid of their monarchy, okay? So this idea that we've had equivalent trajectories at the same time, like the Afghanistans are getting rid of their monarchy the way that we got rid of our monarchy 100 years before. So in terms of that trajectory, they're 100 years behind us, which isn't bad, it's just what it is. And so they're moving along. And then what happens after they finally get rid of their monarchy? Well, they have a brief period of time where the communists take over. It's like a Marxist-Leninist government. And then the society falls into a civil war. And then what happens? The Soviet period, right? Where the Soviets have invaded and the CIA is getting involved and there's a big fucking conflict for a whole decade. Right? And so that ends, and then the government comes in and they try to stabilize, and the Afghani people are rebuilding their society. So they rebuild from a monarchical period, right? They collapse into civil war. They rebuild from the civil war. They collapse in the Soviet period. They rebuild, and then what happens? The fucking Americans invade them. Collapse. So when exactly were they supposed to have this suffragette movement? When exactly was this women's rights movement supposed to start and supposed to happen for these Afghani people? Maybe give them a chance to breathe. Maybe give them an opportunity to actually build something instead of fucking just going in there and bombing the shit out of them and stealing their resources. For fuck's sake. I find the whole conversation about women's rights in Afghanistan to be childish. Literally people are yeah, we dropped a whole bunch of bombs on them, but women's rights. Go fuck yourselves. Go fuck yourselves. It's such an obvious smokescreen. It's the same as the she-cession bullshit. It's the same thing. We don't need to talk about our imperialism, our war, our destruction of their society, because we can drop a woman's rights pellet and go hide behind that. We need to accept that UBI will never happen, and that scarcity and homelessness will be the new normal. We all now need to adapt to these changes and try to live on nothing. It's the Trudeau way. Yeah, I think you're onto something there, DM. I do think they will inevitably, ultimately, pass a basic income because they won't know what else to do. And the barbarians will be at the gates, right? That will be smashing things apart, like what happened in the George Floyd protests. And they'll just do it because they won't know what else to do, because capitalists don't have ideas. That their ideas are let's enslave people and bomb places. So I think that the question is, how long are they going to wait for that, right? Like, how much pain is the society going to have to actually go through before they get there? I think they're trying to out-left America. If they get Medicare for all, America will be worse than terrorists. Yeah, well, and honestly, like, people have been pointing it out. The Taliban, their policies are essentially the GOP policies, right? You can take a look at them point for point down the list. You're like, oh, it's horrible, oh, it's horrible, oh, it's horrible. It's what the GOP says. So they're not worse than the fucking Republicans, right? The second most powerful party currently in America. You're concerned about these guys? I don't know why. Like, I don't know why. If anything, I view these guys as being, like, they're hardline Islamic, obviously. They're right-wing, obviously. But I think these guys, after a period of war, I think these guys are coming in to grab the rudder and be like, okay, we need to stabilize this country. This country needs to be stabilized. We need to be secure. We need to be unified. We need to get on the same page. We need to stabilize. And if you're an Islamic Muslim country, having people in power who are hardline Islamic Muslim guys is a good way to do that. I'm sorry to say it. Like, that's real. Like, that's just how it is. And if you genuinely care about women's rights, if you genuinely care about gender equality, if you genuinely care about gay rights, then leave these guys alone. Leave them the fuck alone. Right? And let the society figure itself out. Let the society reform itself from the inside. You're not going to be able to fly drones in and murder a bunch of people and drop bombs on all their fucking infrastructure while saying women's rights. It's not going to fucking happen that way. It's not. And to believe that it will is completely childish. Completely childish. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Women's rights, okay. Americans, Republicans are passing laws to stop access to female reproductive rights. Exactly. Yeah, suddenly all this concern for the Afghan people. Curious. Exactly. Well, and nothing has been more heartbreaking than seeing the delusion amongst the veterans who are leaving Afghanistan. Like, they're literally talking about this in the same tones of, like, now the Afghanistan people are oppressed. It's like, yeah, but now the Afghanistan people are oppressed. Now that they're being ruled by their own people, now that it's their own, like, neighbors and brothers and sisters, like, now that it's the people who you were fighting against that have come in and ruled, now they're oppressed. Before, they were free when you were drone striking them and kicking in doors and kidnapping people and having the CIA murder children. I'm not saying that flippantly. The CIA's Afghan death squads. The U.S.-backed militia that kills children may be America's exit strategy from its longest war. The CIA was going into Afghanistan and murdering children. That was happening. But women's rights! How about children's rights? Children's rights not to be fucking executed by CIA death squads. Right? Oh yeah, but now the Afghanistan people are oppressed. Now they're oppressed. Now that the Taliban came in. And you know how the Taliban did it? Go read. This is from Al Jazeera. You can go read this press conference. Do you know how they did it? They went around and they talked to everybody. And they said, hey, when the Americans withdraw, we're going to go to Kabul. Right? And we're going to go to these provinces. And we're going to just get rid of the Americans and then we're going to take over. And everybody in Afghanistan said, yeah, okay. That's what fucking happened. that the Taliban were an organized military force, right, in Afghanistan, and they went to the people and they said, when this war is over, we're going to walk in and we're going to take over. Please don't fight back. And everybody went, yeah, okay. That's why the 300,000 trained Afghanistan troops put down their weapons and surrendered to the 25,000 Taliban, right? Think about those fucking numbers, right? 300,000 trained troops. The Americans spent $900 billion to train 300,000 Afghanistan troops. And when the time came for them to fight their oppressors, they put their weapons down and let the Taliban go into Kabul. Like, get fucked. Get fucked. Like, America, get fucked. 100%. And according to the Taliban, you can read this transcript, they had no intention of going into Kabul. That they wanted to go up to Kabul, up to the gates, have Kabul surrender, right? And then, send in a couple of delegates or something. And that the only reason they actually went into Kabul is because there was looting and rioting happening. And so they were just like, we got to stabilize this, right? And it's like, are these guys worse than the GOP? Like, really ask yourself that question. Are these guys worse than the Republicans? I say no. I don't think that they're worse than the Republicans. I don't think they're worse than the Americans. The Americans are fucking hiring CIA death squads to murder children. Like, let's see what they can do. Let's see what they can fucking do. They're not fucking worse than the Americans. And it's just unbelievable to watch these veterans walk around saying, now the Afghanistan people are oppressed. Because, yeah, for the last 20 years, they definitely were free, right? Aga, sorry, John, we didn't get rid of the monarchy. Just look at our money. That's more complex than that, Aga. You know that's true. It's more complex than that. That, like, we did declare our independence. The monarchy said, yes, you're independent, but we still want to be part of the Commonwealth. And being part of the Commonwealth means that, the Queen is technically still part of everything. Can you imagine if the Queen, like, tried to hold something up? Or, like, assert authority here in Canada? It would just never fucking happen. Yeah, Joe Biden, exactly. Well, and people have already started pointing out, like, yeah, he's just withdrawing troops so that he can go invade, like, Venezuela, right? Like, we're for sure going to see that kind of thing. We're going to see a new offensive. The Americans are going to continue to embarrass themselves on the world stage. But they're spreading freedom, guys. They're spreading freedom. Oh yeah. This is a here's a great juxtaposition for you guys. No, they do not. Onward. Anti-vaxxers think their pure semen will skyrocket in value. No. How do you always think their pure semen will skyrocket in value? No way, dude. Onward. You come with the best shit, dude. I love it when you're in the chat, bud, because you always come out with this. Look at this dumb shit. Sperm. Many men assign a massive amount of importance to their own semen. That's not news to anyone. Throughout history, people have believed all kinds of mystical things about cum and its supposed magical powers of longevity, energy, and machismo. Only recently have people who believe these things have been able to find each other en masse, online, which is how we get beliefs like unvaccinated sperm will be the next Bitcoin. Unvaccinated conspiracy theorists think that their dick, balls, and cum are more pure than the rest of the population, and that refusing the COVID-19 vaccine, which has proven to be nearly 100% effective in preventing hospitalization and death from the virus around the world, will make the market value of their semen skyrocket. Some people are refusing the vaccine because they fear long-term side effects and are skeptical of the government's rushing the process. They're waiting to watch the side effects of what they view as experimental treatment unfold on those who trusted the science. As the vaccinated population eventually crumbles, the unvaccinated will rise up to repopulate the planet, according to adherents of this theory. It's a particularly popular notion on our No New Normal, an anti-mask, anti-vax subreddit that was quarantined by Reddit this week. I'm going to retire as a cum cow, one person wrote in a thread about the sperm theory. The sperm is the new Bitcoin meme, has been around since vaccines started rolling out, but a few factors helped it take off recently. Oh my god. Let's get to the conclusion on this. Longer-term studies are needed, but it's presently clear that protecting one's fertility is yet another benefit of being vaccinated against COVID-19, Chen said. Those who are eligible for the vaccine should definitely get it. Fucking shit, dude. Fucking shit. This is so fucking stupid. Like, this is so fucking stupid. Yeah, I don't see anyone paying for American men's gold. Yeah. Come on. Come on. Like, just when I think these anti-vaxxers can't get stupider, right? Just when I think that they can't get stupider, something like this rolls along. Thank you so much, Onward. What a gem. What a fucking gem this is. Unbelievable. Ugh. Why pay for it when they're giving it away? Yeah, right. Because come on. We all know the type of guy that's fallen for this. It's all these fucking incels, right? Nobody wants their sperm in the first place. Like, that's the reason they're fucking incels. Like, it's not suddenly going to be like a run on it. Like, it's, oh my fucking god. We really do need, like, a die-off, eh? Like, we do. Like, as a society. I know it's horrific to say. Like, I know it's brutal, and it's probably my most brutal take. But, like, literally, like, a guy standing there being like, take this shot and you're protected, and you're saying no, then fucking die, dude. Like, fucking just get the fuck out of here. Like, it's become so ridiculous. Okay. The juxtaposition of this is fascinating. Dozens of Canadian companies quietly tweaked formulas to make sure CEOs still got their bonuses during the pandemic, report finds. And you go through it and you find out, like, it's literally they're lying to get as much money as they can out of the government, is essentially what's going on. Meanwhile, in China, Xi Jinping calls for wealth redistribution and clamp down on high incomes. Oh, look. As 92% of Canadians are calling for raising tax on the wealthy, and as Canadian companies do everything they can to avoid this, China is doing what 92% of Canadians want to do. And yet China, evil dictatorship. Evil dictatorship, evil place. Yeah, evil place where evil things happen all the time, you guys. Super evil. Super evil. You married two of them, great minds. Woo. So nice you did it twice. Oh my goodness. So, okay. I'm going to go get a drink of water. I'm going to let Jimmy Dore take this. Now, I'm going to address something head on about Jimmy Dore, in this, especially in this chat. This is the reason why Jimmy Dore is important. You can not like Jimmy Dore all you want. You can shit on him all you want for any kind of reason you want. But in the end of the day, he's doing good work. He actively reads the Afghanistan papers and he goes through them. I'm not going to go through all of it with you guys. As you can see, I'm starting at about the 9-minute mark. But his voice is an important voice in the conversation, and his work now on Afghanistan is as strong as I've ever seen. Right? So I'm gonna let Jimmy Dore have it while I take a bit of a break.
On more than 775,000 U.S. troops, soldiers have been deployed to Afghanistan. Many repeatedly. Of those, 2,300 died and 20,589 were wounded in action. The documents also contradict a long chorus of public statements from U.S. presidents, military commanders, and diplomats who assured Americans year after year that they were making progress in Afghanistan and the war was worth fighting. So is Barack Obama going to lose his Twitter account over that? Just Trump, right? Barack Obama's not going to lose his Twitter account. Joe Biden's not going to lose his Twitter account. Any of the military commanders and diplomats who assured us year after year that they were making progress in Afghanistan and that the war was worth fighting, they knew that was a lie. So they were, again, the biggest dispensers of misinformation is the government. The second is the establishment media. It's not YouTubers and random Twitter people or MAGA TikTok accounts. The biggest disseminators of disinformation and lies is the government and then the establishment media, which is why them banning anybody from Twitter or Facebook is a joke. Every data point. Now, everybody knows this, by the way. So everybody in the media knows this? Every data point was altered to present the best picture possible. An Army colonel who served as a senior counterinsurgency advisor to U.S. military commanders told the government interviewers, every data point was altered, meaning we were lying. We were manipulating every data point to lie to the American people, to keep $2 trillion flowing into the pockets of the military-industrial complex. We found the stabilization strategy and the programs used to achieve it were not properly tailored to the Afghan context. And successes in stabilizing Afghan districts rarely lasted longer than the physical presence of coalition troops and civilians. That's from May 2018. We don't invade poor countries to make them rich, said U.S. diplomat who served as a special envoy to Afghanistan under Bush and Obama. We don't invade authoritarian countries to make them democratic. We invade violent countries to make them peaceful. And we clearly failed in Afghanistan. Let's go drop a bunch of bombs. Let's drop 26,000 bombs to bring peace. This is amazing. It's amazing. We invade other countries for their natural resources. That's what we do. We invade other countries to steal their natural resources and to funnel money to the military-industrial complex.
So you guys see why I think Jimmy Dore is an important voice. Like, no one else in America, no one else. Sam Cedar isn't, right? Like, no one else is saying what he just said right there, right? That they are going in to steal resources. That's what they're doing. And that, in my view, by itself, makes Jimmy Dore one of our strongest allies and most important voices in the American discourse, without a doubt, because he's willing to stand up and say and call the empire what it is. And this guy's got how many followers? This guy's got almost 1 million subscribers. So in my view, like, you can dislike Jimmy Dore all you like, and I respect that, right? Not everybody likes everybody. And you can find the reason why you want to exclude him. No one else is talking like this. I mean, except me, obviously. Okay. Let's take a look at Adam Something. We've got Crouching. Dominic is talking about it. I should subscribe to this kid. The Fatal Flaw. Oh, I've seen this video coming around. Let's just check it out.
Imagine suffering a plane crash above the ocean with only you and one other passenger surviving. Both of you get washed up on a deserted island with nothing but sandbanks and palm trees. Once you wake up on the shore and look around, you notice the other survivor's footprints. Looks like he woke up before you.
Is Lance the blonde guy? Is that the blonde guy from the Surfs? Is he like the main guy that does like all the he's in all the videos and everything?
As you explore the island, you find him sitting on a huge pile of coconuts. Turns out, while you were unconscious, he went around and collected every single coconut on the island for himself. Coconuts that you would also need if you don't want to starve. Of course, you could go and try your luck catching some fish along the shore, but according to statistics, 9 out of 10 startup fishermen end up dying of hunger in the end. The coconuts are your only realistic chance at survival. So you ask him, can you give me some coconuts, please? And he says, sure, I can give you some coconuts. if you suck my dick. You are faced with a conundrum. Do you suck the coconut man's dick? Let's keep this question in mind for later. My political views,
I get why this video blew
my
up.
urban planning and transit views are all informed by one overarching value. I want as many people as possible to live the best lives they can with the largest possible degree of freedom. In practice, this means that every adult person should be free to do whatever they want as long as they don't harm others physically, mentally, or financially. And just to clarify, I am pro-choice. I don't think the fetus is a full-fledged person, so the mother's interest should take priority. So as a freedom-loving person, it should be self-explanatory that I support ideologies such as free market capitalism or even anarcho-capitalism, right? So what do these two ideologies entail? In a free market capitalist system, the economy operates with very little to no government intervention. Now keep in mind that we're only talking about the markets here. In every other aspect of life, the government can be very much repressive. For example, even totalitarian dictatorships can be free market, or at least lean towards it. In contrast, anarcho-capitalism is a system without a government, or at least a centralized institution able to effect coercion on you. Everything is left up to the free market and the people's self-organization.
Yeah.
And I'm here to make the case that within a short amount of time, both systems would devolve into a horrifying authoritarian dictatorship. But how come these two ideologies would bring about the exact things they are designed to alleviate, namely oppression and coercion?
Well, because they're
Let's
not
take a
designed
look.
to do
First
that.
at free market
You can
capitalism.
lie if you like.
And my question to you is your workplace democratic? And by that I mean, do you as an employee have a say in how your workplace is run? Well, not really, right? Maybe in like a very small business, but even then you don't have any say in the meaningful decisions. Like if there's, say, 5 of you working at a small restaurant as waiters, you can ask the owner to, for example, rearrange the tables a bit, because right now the layout is super inconvenient to navigate with a bunch of plates in your hand, but the outcome of that request is still completely determined by the goodwill of the owner. They can say, yeah, sure, how do you want to organize the tables? Or, nope, sorry, the layout is good the way it is. And for me, this is like a little chiefdom, if you will. It's a small community, you got the chief running things, and everyone can just go and petition the chief personally if they want to. But see, the outcome of the request is still determined completely by the chieftain. Even if all 5 of you go to them and say, so here's a petition, all 5 of us have voted to rearrange the table layout, the chieftain can still go, yeah, I disagree with that, so too bad. We end up with a system where the will of the people will be taken into account if, and only if, A, the leader is a nice person, B, the leader is afraid that some of the subordinates might quit and so they will need to spend more time and money on additional recruitment, or C, the leader believes that the new table arrangement would lead to more efficient work and so the business would make more money. So here, whether the will of the people will be taken into account depends on A, personal kindness, B, fear of losing money, and C, the promise of more money. So as you can see, this is not exactly the perfect recipe for freedom. So what happens in a bigger business with more employees? Big business takes the concept of chiefdom and upgrades it to a totalitarian dictatorship, as Bob Black wrote in his essay The Abolition of...
This guy's doing a really great job of taking a lot of Richard Wolff's works, like a lot of his lectures, and just condensing them and then memifying it. I think that's why this guy blew up. This guy blew up big time because of this video. And I think that's what happened, is that he took a lot of like well-known communist critiques of capitalism and all that, and he's just memified it in a way that's completely... And honestly, the beginning of like taking seriously the question of, well, do you suck the guy's dick? And you just know he's going to come back to it, right?
Work makes a mockery.
This is really effective.
Of freedom. The official line is that we all have rights and live in a democracy. Other unfortunates who aren't free like we are forced to live in police states. These victims obey orders or else, no matter how arbitrary. The authorities keep them under regular surveillance. State bureaucrats control even the smaller details of everyday life. The officials who push them around are answerable only to higher-ups, public or private. Either way, dissent and disobedience are punished. Informers report regularly to the authorities. All this is supposed to be a very bad thing, and so it is, although it is nothing but a description of the modern workplace. A great example of this is when major corporations try to prevent workers' unions from forming, also known as union busting. A practice that is illegal, mind you, but they still do it anyway. For example, have you heard about this company called Tesla and its owner, Elon Musk? And to quote from a Vox article titled "Elon Musk broke US labor laws on Twitter," Tesla tried many different tactics to stop workers from forming a labor union. Tesla workers distributing pro-union leaflets in the parking lot in their time off were harassed by 3 security guards. A supervisor later warned them that they could be fired for distributing those leaflets. Summoning the organizers into his office, Elon Musk illegally tried to dissuade the workers from forming a workers' union. And, as leaked emails have shown, the HR department tried to put the organizers into management so they won't be able to organize a union on the factory floor.
The Elon Musk simps are the most confusing. They're so the most confusing group of people. Like these people that are like genuinely convinced that Elon Musk is anything but just like a ruthless, brutal capitalist child, right? Like, I think the most confusing thing to me about Elon Musk is that he wants to be seen as this brilliant genius. Like, Steve Jobs had that same sort of narcissism about him, right? Where he needed to be seen as like this brilliant genius type. When like these guys are just like buying inventions from people and getting massive government subsidies. Like they're only brilliant insofar as their ability to manipulate the political system to their own ends. And they're only able to do that because someone like Elon Musk, like his dad was literally an apartheid emerald miner. His father was a slave owner in South Africa. Like, where do you think his money came from, you guys? Like, where do you think he's able to get all the funding for all this shit? And everybody's like, oh, he's so brilliant, he invented PayPal. Literally, his dad says to his son, hey, make PayPal because that would be useful for me and my slave-owning billionaire buddies. And that's why PayPal got made. So, like, this simping for Elon Musk is just, like, the most idiotic thing ever. And to me, the only thing that makes sense about Musk, about why he wants to be seen as this brilliant wisdom, like Tony Stark type figure, is because he never had his father's love. His dad is a brutal slaver who's a billionaire, so he's a psychopath, right? He never had his father's love, and so he's doing all of this to show his daddy, right? Daddy will be proud of me, right? Look how smart I am, and look how much the society respects me. Daddy will love me. That's all Elon. That's Elon Musk to a T, right? He wants to go to Mars and die on Mars because then he can say, "I did right by my daddy." That's his complete motivation.
And then, once again illegally, Tesla banned employees from wearing pro-union t-shirts and buttons. And, also illegally, Tesla fired one of the organizer's co-workers who criticized Tesla employees who spoke out against a union-backed bill. And then, repeat after me, illegally, Elon Musk tweeted out the following. Nothing stopping Tesla team at our car plant from voting union. Could do so tomorrow if they wanted, but why pay union dues and give up your stock options for nothing? Our safety record is 2 times better than when the plant was UAW and everybody already gets healthcare. Okay. In other words, nothing stopping the peasantry in our kingdom from enacting democracy. Could do so tomorrow if they wanted. But why get your head chopped off for nothing? Law and order is 2 times better than when kingdom was under Louis XIII, and we already have the code Louis. Alright, so at this point, what real choice does the employee have? Proponents of free market capitalism usually bring up the fact that the workers can just switch workplaces or, just move to another city. This is the freedom that workers have. But is it though? Changing your workplace is not an easy thing to do. I know because I've done it before. It's long, time-consuming, financially difficult. Chances are you'll be without a salary for at least a month. Not to mention how stressful it can be. Not to mention, the older you get, the more difficult it will become to get hired. I know people personally who tried to change their jobs in their mid-40s. Despite them being super qualified with a ton of experience, in a booming job market, it was still super difficult. Also, what if there's nothing for you to do in your area? What if you live in some small town in some flyover state with like 1 Walmart and 2 other workplaces, and you want to quit your current job because your employer wants to cut your salary to $5 per hour and increase your work hours to 16 hours per day? Because under free market capitalism, they are allowed to do that. Trust me, there's a lot of things corporations would do under a free market system, like violating your privacy online or offline, or selling off your sensitive information for money. Speaking of which, today's video is sponsored by Atlas VPN. Atlas VPN is a tool that encrypts your data and hides your virtual location, thus protecting your privacy and allowing you to bypass region locks.
Just like slipped right into the ad.
To all that content
Gotta do capitalism.
Such as Netflix that
Gotta do capitalism, right? Like this is the thing that I hate about this shit. Like, it'd be so nice to be able to do this shit without the fucking capitalist knife hanging over your back, right? It'd be so nice if we could just be participating in communicating about what we think about the world without this constant knife at our throat that's saying, hey, you better sell something. You better fucking advertise, you fucking piece of shit. If you don't advertise, you don't get to eat. Advertise or you don't get to eat. Oh, yeah. So go buy your stupid bullshit and all this kind of stuff. Now let's talk about how capitalism fails.
And 39 cents per month.
Oh, my God. It's so... I just wish it wasn't like this. Like, it's so fucking annoying. Oh, my God. The ad is still going. Like, the rest of this, is this just an ad? Is that the rest of this?
Down in the description. According to proponents of free market capitalism, if you are out of options, your main recourse is just to move to a different city.
Just
now,
move.
Of course, this can be a fine solution, but we cannot...
If your house goes underwater, just sell it and move. Like, sell it to fucking who? Like, and you know what happens if you just move? Like, Amazon owns everything everywhere, dude. Like, just move. Like, what are you, stupid?
So B. Moving to a new area can be hugely stressful. I know because I've done it before. Not to mention, if you move from some flyover state to, say, a coastal state, you'll be leaving behind friends, family, acquaintances, i.e. you will lose your social safety net and you will lose your community. And this is made all the worse if you have, say, school-age children. You have to take them with you. That means leaving behind their school, their friends, hell, even maybe their boyfriends or girlfriends, the teachers they knew, the neighborhood they grew up in, maybe even the grandparents or other relatives who also live there. Now, I'm no child psychology expert, but I don't think for some reason that that's particularly conducive for the child's development. The only group of people who would not be affected by the negative consequences of moving that much would be young adults between the ages of 18 and 25 who are hyper online.
Well, and let's point something out here, right? The Just Move crowd, what they are actually talking about is forced relocation, right? That's what they're talking about. That's one of the ways that you commit a genocide against a people, is forced relocation, right? Like, oh, we're going to dry up the economic opportunities here and not provide any benefits or allow you to actually thrive or exist here. And all of the relationships that exist between you and the capitalist system are completely exploitive. So we're going to force you to relocate. Like, it's not an argument. It's not an argument. It's like literally an admission that the system has failed. It's a total failure of a system. Like, if you're literally saying just move, you're basically just saying go die. Like, you're essentially saying I do not care about the fact that the system does not provide basic security.
Don't leave the house that often and have very few to no real-life friends. And so let us now talk about anarcho-capitalism and what its proponents want to bring about. And so, as we discussed before, free market capitalism doesn't want government influence in the market. However, the state can be very much present in other aspects of life. For example, they can still provide public services and infrastructure next to the private ones. Anarcho-capitalism, however, in its primal form, is a stateless society. There is no government. Everything depends on people's self-organization and the free market. All the functions that were performed by the government previously are now completely privatized. Meaning, you could live on your private property and freely contract with anyone else without any coercion, as long as they basically just don't mess with other people, also called the non-aggression principle. This means that technically you would be able to live a life of absolute freedom. Well, until the Amazon Gestapo shows up and tells you that you are now under the rule of holy Jeff Bezos I, and anyone opposing him will be decapitated in an Amazon warehouse, and their body parts will be sent to their family members as a warning in boxes with same-day Amazon Prime delivery. But hey, if you don't agree with this, you'll be perfectly free to start reciting the non-aggression principle until the firing squad officer tells you to shut the fuck up and keep digging. So I believe by now all of us can start seeing the problem, the fatal flaw at the core of free market capitalism, and consequently anarcho-capitalism. Both ideologies seek to increase the power and influence of institutions that are autocratic in nature. Traditional corporations are set up like dictatorships. The owner has absolute control, and the subordinates can only hold the owner accountable through a government, which in the first world is a parallel, democratic, more powerful power structure, and so it can hold the corporate autocratic power structures accountable. If you get rid of it, then the only game remaining in town will be the autocratic power structures, meaning they'll be the ones with ultimate control. In free market capitalism, they'll control the economy, and who knows, maybe more things by proxy, and in anarcho-capitalism, they'll control everything. And guess what? Coercion happens to be the central part of any autocracy. So if your goal is the lack of coercion, then free market capitalism or anarcho-capitalism should be the last things you would want. And I'm confident in making this statement because coercion already exists in the current system, and it's not coming from the government. If your only choice is to work some shitty job or be homeless, as is the case for millions of people, then I would say you are not really free. I mean, hey, you do have the option to quit and be homeless, but is that really the type of freedom you would want? And so let us now circle back to the original question. Do you suck the coconut man's dick? Hey, you're free not to, with dying of hunger as the consequence. And that I believe to be coercion. If you want a system with the maximum possible amount of freedom and the minimum possible amount of coercion, then, if I were you, I would not base it on the current form of capitalism, a system that is autocratic in nature. But I do think there is a solution actually, namely workplace democracy. Give workers more control over their own workplace. Curtail the absolute power of business owners. Let workers democratically decide how profits will be allocated. So I would personally just give a tax break to any worker co-op firms and see if they work out. If they do, hell yeah, let's have more. If not, well, I guess we'll just have to figure out something else. But there are pretty successful examples already, so I have no doubt they would work out actually. Now upon hearing this, you might ask, okay Adam, but if co-ops are so good and, better than traditional firms, how come we still have traditional firms? How come we haven't transitioned into worker co-ops? Well, consider the following. Just because a system is better, it doesn't mean that we will automatically transition to it. The prerequisites of capitalism existed centuries before capitalism itself. And I do believe that the next step after late-stage capitalism, the system we have currently, would be co-op-based capitalism. In any case, we need something new, and we need it now. And free market capitalism or anarcho-capitalism are just not going to cut it. They're just more the same. And I believe we've all had enough of that already. Coconuts and all. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and do check out my Patreon, link in the description. And I'll be seeing you next time.
That's a great video. That's great. I completely understand why this one went viral. I completely understand why this guy blew up. He essentially took all of, and it looks like this guy's been running for a long time and has been doing a lot of videos, right? Like lots. Yeah, he's been up and running for forever. So yeah, I completely get why this guy blew up. Well deserved, because that's a really tight video. He basically just took Richard Wolff and memeified it, right? And the question of, do you suck the guy's dick? Perfect. Like that's exactly what you do. You just make it lowbrow humor, connects it all in. His solution is Richard Wolff, right? Like that's Richard Wolff all the way. I like this solution that comes out of Wolff, but it does flow into sort of one of my major complaints about today's society, which is that people want incrementalism. And I see it as kind of yet another incremental reform. And a co-op country, like certainly it's an improvement. Like, don't get me wrong. I would like to work for a company that, I would like to work for a company in which, I had more control over what was going on and the say of it, for sure. That like literally hundreds, like thousands and thousands of people were laid off from their jobs, right? They were just laid off from their jobs because of COVID. Whereas there's lots of cooperatives where people just decided, like, no, we'll get through this together, right? We're not going to lay people off. We're not going to do that kind of stuff. We'll take like a bit of a pay cut over this period of time, right? And it all made sense, and everybody got through it together. So I like it. Yeah, it's a step in the right direction for sure. Well, and like the totalitarian nature. One thing I really like about that video is that he really focuses on the reality that capitalism is a coercive system, and that this idea that pro-capitalists have that their system is not coercive is childish. Like, it's just childish at this stage in the game. And like, saying a person has a choice between enslaving themselves to this capitalist system or starving in the street, like, it's not a choice, right? It's embarrassing when you hear like the Ben Shapiro types, right? When you hear the Ben Shapiro types actually attempt to make the case that capitalism is not a coercive system, they just sound like children. Like a guy like Ben Shapiro, he essentially turned 5 and didn't grow up from there, right? Like he just stopped growing at 5. Yeah, just shake his hand, right? Look him in the eye. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Crouching, you asked a question a little while ago here. What do I think about Lance from the Surf Times? Yeah, I think he's on the right side. I think he's doing good work. He's the guy that set up the Richard Wolff Destiny debate. Anytime I've heard him talk about stuff, I see that he's coming from the socialist perspective and he's trying to fight the fight. My only critique of a guy like this is that he's not funneling that energy into the street. He's not attempting to get people into the street. Like he's not attempting to take his community and actually push them into where it would be far more meaningful, which is the street. And he also falls for the same kind of YouTuber traps that I see, which is that he puts his business ahead of his movement. And that manifests itself in that sort of lack of desire to actually mobilize people, right? That he is more concerned about his subscriber count than he is about actually changing anything in his society. And if that wasn't true, then he would be mobilizing people onto the streets. Like, he sees himself as a reporter and not an organizer. And at this stage in the game, I think we all have to be organizers. I think it's fine to be a reporter, but I think you have to be an organizer as well. Like, I'm attempting to turn my channel into an organization movement. If you donate $1 to my Patreon, I get you into the Discord, and I'm trying to get it set up so that it is more of an organizational hub, so that we can see what's going on and find out what's going on in terms of protest movements, in terms of these sorts of things, which is why I try to follow and get involved in as many protests as I can. But like so that's my one critique, if you want to call it that. Like, I just wish that guys like Lance were actually mobilizing people to get into the streets, and I just don't see that. Right, I just don't see that in a lot of cases. You know, I don't see a lot of, like, these guys are just more concerned about their subscriber count and making sure that that's nice and high, and making sure they get a lot of views so that they can make more money for themselves and secure themselves their own business. Right. So once again, kind of capitalism carries the day, even as you're running a channel that is directly opposed to capitalism. Right. Like, if I found out. Like, I just genuinely feel like a guy like Lance could be way more impactful. And I really, really wish that he was just constantly being like, okay, guys, September 1st, let's all organize here. Let's go. Right? And no, I don't think he's grifting. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. I don't think he's trying to grift. I just think that he, like many of these guys, has found his position, has found out how to make money doing what he's doing, and has gotten comfortable in that, and doesn't want to do anything to upset that. And I think that that's really normal. I think that that's really normal, right? I don't think it's a grift. I think he doesn't... I think he is helpful. I think that he is useful. I think that his reporting is good. All of those things. It's just like time to take the next jump and actually be like, okay, September 1st, let's all meet right here and have a protest, right? Like, that's what a guy like Lance, in my view, could do. And he could become very influential and very scary to the political establishment, which in and of itself is scary. So I understand why he doesn't do it. But, like, that's what I'd like to see. And I've got the same critique for guys like Thought Slime. I've got the same critique for, like, there are lots of leftists that have, like, 100K followers, right? There are lots of leftists that have big support online, right? And they're just not mobilizing. They're not mobilizing. Yeah, to be fair, he has gone to rallies, but I suppose he doesn't really organize like he says. Yeah, if you had 100,000 people, right, you can fish out of 100,000 people 100 people who are going to come out to something if you set the date and you say we're going to go, right? I just don't see it. I just don't see it. The left can't help fighting each other, and the capitalist model of YouTube encourages infighting, right? That when someone like Sam Cedar does a video about Jimmy Dore and vice versa, those are some of their most watched videos. YouTube circulates those ones the most because conflict and controversy is popular. People want to see that kind of stuff, and people genuinely do want to see the infighting. Unfortunately, like this is one of the backbones of theater, right? Like people aren't going to tune in to watch an amicable conversation, right? That's not what they're interested in seeing. People want to see a fight, right? People want to see a fight, and people want to see a winner of that fight. Like that's why the most popular podcasters are the people like Joe Rogan, who have on the most controversial people, right? Because people want to see the controversy and they want to see the fight. Not that Joe is fighting them, but like you get someone like Ben Shapiro on, and then like Joe Rogan has somebody else on who's anti Ben Shapiro, and so there's like a bite back, and so there's like this back and forth that happens over time, right? And then you get to participate in like a fight long form. And then maybe these two figures get in the same room and actually talk to each other at one point. And that's very exciting. So, but like I've seen Lance, for example, he has done stuff where he's critiqued like Jimmy Dore, but it's always like small scale stuff, right? It's always really, really small scale stuff. Stuff that's like so like, why even bother, right? Like why even bother? And really it just comes down to like I defend people like Jimmy Dore. I defend people like Joe Rogan, right? Like I defend these guys because I see it the same way that I see like defending Stalin, right? Just like these guys are just people. They're caught in the same kind of situations that we are caught in. And if you really want to just discard someone based on an issue, you'll find it, right? You will always find the issue that you want to use to discard a person. Or their idea or any of that kind of stuff. For Joe Rogan, it's his transphobia, right? Joe Rogan's obviously a transphobe. Like, and I'm not even saying this to critique him. I literally have just it's become obvious at this point. Like you can't do what Joe Rogan's done, and you can't say what Joe Rogan said, and you can't platform the people that Joe Rogan has platformed in the trans conversation without ever having a trans right activist on your show, right? Like, he has platformed obvious bigots. He has platformed obvious grifters. He has platformed, like, and people who are, I think, genuinely concerned of certain aspects. He's platformed all of those people, and he's never once had a trans rights activist to speak with them about these issues. He's a transphobe. Like it's black and white. It's not even a critique. It's not even a suspicion. If he wasn't a transphobe, he'd have a trans right activist on his show and he would talk to them. Obviously. But like, is that a reason to completely discard a person? Is that a reason to just dump them into the waste bin of history and throw them away? Like, I don't want him to be a transphobe. I wish that he would platform trans rights activists. I wish that he would do that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, that's not how humanity works, right? That's not how humanity works. And that, to me, is one of the hardest lessons about growing up, is realizing that people who you can like and people who you can get on with and people who you can have general agreements with on lots of different subjects can also have these views that you're just like, dude, like, it's grow up time. It's grow up time, you know? And a guy like Joe Rogan is standing there being like, no, I've got nothing against trans people, and I got not, like, that's totally fine. And I'm sure that he genuinely believes that of himself. But actions are the thing that tell the tale, right? And he doesn't bring on trans right activists, even though, like, literally his point the thing that he fights for about trans rights, trans people in sports, right? That trans men go and fight against women. That became a talking point by the Trump administration in the last presidential election. And so, like, what he is saying on that subject is obviously important. And the fact that he's not platforming trans right activists in order to speak back to it is telling. Oh, DM. Halifax police officers unleashed pepper spray on a crowd of people protesting their forcible removal of an encampment being used by people without homes. Do we have footage? Do we have footage? Halifax police pepper spray homeless encampment. Yep. We'll see. We'll see. Somebody was arrested last time. The little brown guy, of course. Protesters arrested, pepper sprayed as Halifax police clear shelter from city land. Oh, come on. There we go. If somebody could explain to me how pepper spray is anything but chemical warfare, right? If somebody could explain to me how pepper spray is not considered chemical warfare, I'd like to know. I'd like to know what your argument is. Like, it's pretty clearly chemical warfare, right? Well, last Saturday, like last time we did the protest, it was obvious, like we tell the police that we're coming, like it's not a secret, but it was pretty obvious that it had not been communicated to them. And so they tried to convince us to not take over the street. Once it became obvious that we were going to take over the street, all of their police got focused on arresting the little brown guy that was with us. And then police cars showed up and blockaded the street. And I expect kind of a similar thing. This next time we're going to have cameras rolling the whole time. That's my job. I'm going to be rolling camera the whole time on these police. Make sure they don't arrest, the little brown dude again. Hopefully we're going to have more people than we did last time. We only had like 10 people last time. So hopefully next time we get more. I've been promoting the crap out of it on TikTok, and that's been getting a good amount of traction. We'll see if that actually translates into people actually coming out. Because, you can like a video, but like actually getting up and getting out of your house and going to do something is the problem. Yeah, I don't know why I'm completely blanking on... Here's an embarrassing moment. Where the fuck is Halifax? It's Nova Scotia, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. So literally the Conservative government gets elected. What happens? Conservative government, oh, look what happens. Conservative government, oh, look what happens. Like, this is, yeah, I'll be happy to see you, Misty. I'll be happy to see you. I understand it can be difficult. It can be difficult. And I don't want to, like, there are lots of people who are oh, interview videos. Okay. I've been struggling to get people to interview. Maybe I'll do another socialist action one. I know that Barry has been asking, so maybe I'll do another one of those. But like, come on, guys. Like, are you telling me straight out, like, Nova Scotia elects a Conservative government, and then all of a sudden there's like police officers pepper spraying people? Like, what the fuck do you think is happening? Like, it's pretty clear, right? Halifax Mayor Mike Savage Yeah, he's savage, all right. Told CBC News Wednesday afternoon that city staff, police, and fire had been working on a plan for the evictions for the past few weeks. He said the timing had nothing to do with Tuesday's provincial election, and if you believe that, you're fucking gullible. Like, no. This is about health and safety, yeah, of course. It's gotten to the point now where we see a lot of issues, activities been happening around some of these encampments, like, police showing up and beating up homeless people. He said the other tent encampments were removed peacefully, and it wasn't until people gathered on Spring Garden to express their view that things took a turn. Yeah, it wasn't until people fought back, right? Yeah, like when people just bowed their head and went along obediently with our oppression, things were fine. When people fought back, that was the problem. This is the large complaint that imperialists and these sort of police thug supporters have, which is how dare you fight back, right? Like the big complaint that the American government had of the Taliban, right? The big complaint that the American government had of the Taliban was, how dare you fight back, right? Big complaint that they had about people fighting back in Libya was, how dare you fight back? Same with Syria. How dare you fight back? Don't you know that we own this place? Don't you know that America owns the world? And it's no different here in Nova Scotia. Things are going so well. How dare you fight back, right? And all of these problems are linked. Like it's all the same thing. It's all manifesting because of the collapse of neoliberal capitalism. That neoliberal capitalism was a grift. It always was a grift. It was designed as a grift. It was designed to con the majority of the populace into believing that neoliberal economics is actually an economic system when it isn't. It's a religious system, and specifically a religious system of a death cult. And by convincing large segments of the population that this religious ideology was an economic system, they have collapsed the actual economies that exist in the society, and their solution, right, the death cult's solution to the suffering caused by the collapse of the economies is police. That's it. If housing will be unaffordable, what's the plan for the homeless? More prisons? Yeah, you bet, bud. Slave labor, right? The slave labor throughout the United States is real. We've already seen the mayor of Los Angeles make homelessness criminal, like literally criminalizing like sleeping on the street, these sorts of things. Like if you erect a tent, that's a crime, and so you're seeing like outright criminalization of homelessness, and that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to take these homeless and they're just going to funnel them into their prison system, where they have a slave system, and we're talking about like the full-scale erection of a neo-slavery movement throughout the United States. That's 100% what their solution is going to be, and that and police, right? So it'll be big spikes in spending on police, big spike. Yeah, inflation is up 3.75, highest in a decade, and that's what they're willing to report, right? You can be assured that if the government is willing to report a number, that the truth is actually far worse. I have been seeing sources saying that inflation is as high as 10% in some sectors, because like their solution has been to print all of this money, and which is fine. It's completely fine to print money as long as you tax some of it back, right? Well, they haven't done that, right? They haven't done any of the tax back. And in fact, a lot of the money that they printed, they just handed over to their, corporate owners, and their corporate owners took it and just jammed it in their bank accounts. So, by the way, Bill C-273, Julie Dershowitz Basic Income Bill, is now dead in the water. Yeah, thanks to Parliament being dissolved. What a joke. Liberals are liars through and through. Yeah. Well, and that bill was only being pushed through so that the Liberals could point at it. Like, that's it. That was never actually going to go anywhere. and anybody who thought it was going to go anywhere is just fooling themselves. If the Liberals were genuine about passing a basic income, they would have taken the CERB and they would have made it a basic income. It would have taken them a week. It would have taken them no time at all. Like, they passed the CERB in less than a week. Like, and they could have taken that and just expanded it, right? Just included people, and they could have taken the employment insurance program and they could have just expanded it to everybody, right? It would have been easy. It would have been easy. They could have very easily done that. And they just decided not to, right? And they steadily dismantled it. And no, I've been paying very close attention to the basic income conversation in the Liberals, and it's really clear. And I mean, for God's sakes, Justin Trudeau outright said that he wasn't going to do it. So, like, it was always a grift. It's always been a grift. Neoliberals must end every meeting with, we're going to need more prisons. Yep. Well, and eventually it becomes that the neoliberals will retreat into their gated communities, right? And then it'll all just be like rugged free market capitalism for everybody else. And the prison will be outside of their gates, right? That they'll be living in their, like, suburban life, and, like, they'll have all their amenities and they'll have everything they need inside of their community, right? And they'll be like, yes, of course, no, it's a free anybody can come in and live in the community if they have $10 million to buy a house here, right? Which, of course, you can't get because you're living in, like, this dust bowl where you're completely excluded, right? And of course, like, to maintain this, they'll spend, 3 times the amount on police forces. And of course, the police will be living in the gated community, right? So the police will come out of the gated community, beat the shit out of everybody, which is what they want to be doing. Oh, good, because that was obvious. Any paid politician is a liar. Like, yeah, I mean, and they could have very easily passed the basic income. And this is where the insanity of the situation comes from when it comes to the conversation of poverty, is that it's cheaper. It's cheaper to alleviate poverty, right? Give people a house, give people a basic income. It's cheaper than dealing with homelessness, than dealing with the negative consequences of poverty. It's cheaper for the society to do it that way. But, if you're a neoliberal capitalist, i.e. a sociopath, then you know that actually helping people is bad for you, right? If you actually help people, then they're less likely to subserviate and enslave themselves to you, right? So the goal of neoliberal capitalism is not to improve people's lives or improve people or help people. It's to coerce people into slavery. That's what it's for. And as the system collapses, you're going to see more homeless people, and just exactly as Onward has said here, right? That, like, more homeless people. That means more people that we can criminalize just by being homeless. More people we can funnel into a prison system. More slave labor, right? Which is the goal of neoliberal capitalism, is to collapse the society back into slavery, right? The system itself is a slave system. Wage slavery is slavery. But they're just, creating new forms of slavery so that they can continue this neoliberal capitalist grift. Like, that's the system. That's how it works. Remember? Like, if capitalism can't enslave someone and can't steal resources, then capitalism stops working. That's the backbone of capital. That they have to continuously enslave people, and they have to continuously steal resources. And if they can't, then the capitalist model stops working. And you can see it if you start talking to people, right? If you start talking to pro-capitalist people, like, they'll outright explicitly admit it. Like, if you pass a basic income, then people won't work. So your system is based on coercion. So it's a slave system. And they're just admitting it, right? Whether it's unwitting or not, right? They just admit it. Like, and they haven't, like, connected the dots, right? That, like, that's exactly what they're doing. These neoliberal capitalists, they always let it's always mask off. It's always like cat out of the bag every time. If you improve people's lives, then they'll stop letting people enslave them. Isn't that the point? Like, isn't that the point? I cannot lie, John. Throughout the last while, I haven't really been proud to be a Canadian, sadly. Well, I mean, we haven't really... we've fooled ourselves into believing that we're like this socialist nation that's trying to actually improve things for everybody, but we're not. Like, we're not. We're just a group of neoliberal grifters, and like the Ford administration has explicitly proved that. And what's been so disappointing throughout this period of time, especially through the pandemic period, is realizing how many people in our society are just fucking death cultists and are like selfish babies, right? There's tons and tons of people who are just selfish babies. Like, yeah, it could be worse. You could be in America. Yeah. This, I hate that argument. I hate that argument. It's something that Canadians say all the time, and it's just a way for them to like end the conversation. Oh, well, at least we're not America. And then they can just stop thinking about it. They can just put it out. Yeah, the American South at that. Yeah, the American South is really taking a pillaring right now. The pandemic is really going through and really causing tons and tons of problems for people throughout the southern states. I can't fucking imagine, man. I can imagine what that must be like. And like the insanity of having such high level of infection, a high level of people who are getting, and still you have an anti-vax movement. Like, still. It's shocking. Like, it's shocking. And to see somebody like DeSantis, a lot of spreadnecks down here, that's hilarious. But to see somebody like DeSantis, who like is in a position of power and who definitely knows better, just like go along with it. Oh man, it's brutal. It's brutal. Like here in Canada, even our most far right politician is still being like, no, like COVID is real. Take your fucking vaccine. Like we don't really like. I mean, you could find like an MP or something, sure, but like. Doug Ford went and got his vaccine, right? Like Jason Kenney went and got his vaccine. Was very public about it. So, whereas someone like DeSantis is outright saying like, oh, don't get your vaccine. No, vaccines are a hoax. And then he goes and gets his vaccine, right? Like, it's such total fucking bullshit. It's such total fucking bullshit. Well, I am out of prepared material here. So we are just going to fall to the whims. Oh, hey, here we go. Wow. Here is a letter that is coming from You Girl Just Tryin', or sorry, by Girl Just Tryin', in On Guard for Thee. So this is going to have a more liberal bent, because On Guard for Thee is liberalism. This is my favorite thing to do, is to read people's... look at this. Okay, here we go. I am so frustrated with the current state of Canada. Does anyone actually care anymore? This might be a bit of word vomit, but I've seriously reached a boiling point, and I just need to know there's others out there that actually give a shit about the environment, and especially about other people. What the hell is happening to Canada and Canadians? Now, I admit I consider myself to be potentially left in my beliefs. Liberal, sure, but I honestly believe most of these things aren't necessarily left, but just really come down to human decency, basic rights, and just actually giving a flying fuck about the person next to you. How far have we fallen that people would rather see their neighbor burn than be inconvenienced or miss out on a buck? I've probably done a bit more reading than I should have done on socials over the last week, and I just can't even believe what I'm seeing half the time. How do so many people have a fuck it, let him die attitude? And it's not even just a one issue or reason that's sparking this. Whether it's COVID restrictions, healthcare, welfare support, disability, housing, the list goes on. So many people are hurting, experiencing loss, and sometimes the replies are like, LOL, probably sucks to suck, leftist POS, or I worked hard for mine, get fucked. The kind of attitude makes me so fucking angry and sad at the same time. Are they potentially just trolling? Sure. Of course, there's tons of trolls, but that's a whole other issue in itself. I don't even care about left or right. It just makes me so angry that someone actually can give less than zero sympathy towards someone less fortunate. The greed I've noticed over the past year has also been astonishing. CEOs getting bonuses while laying off workers and increasing profits. People buying not 2, but 3, 4, 5 different houses because they're able to, and why not make more fucking money at someone else's loss, right? I don't know. The list of greed goes on and on. People are hurting and lives are being affected greatly. Then there's the environment. People, how can you not care about the place that you live in, that you require to live? Now, I'm not just pointing at street level here. I know reusable bags at the grocery store isn't going to magically solve the climate crisis. Huge corporations make ton of pollution, and the issues they bring can be big change makers, but holy hell, some people are flat out still denying it. Some people just refuse to adjust or even care about it as an issue. Pave over the fucking green spaces. Sure, why the hell not if it makes a buck? Cut down some irreplaceable old growth? Sure, go right the fuck ahead. We need big change in this country. We need to start giving a shit about the person beside us, regardless of their financials, their background, or their belief in their work together as a collective to move the future. We can't get there divided, and we sure as hell can't get there being selfish. We won't get there if we definitely don't have a place to live. How are these topics not topics that enrage others? Listen, I get that everyone will agree as we all have varying ideas regardless as to what to do to the future of this country, but why are we focusing on left-right, calling each other pieces of shit and rats? Without having basic human decency, we're so lost. I really hope we can find it again. I don't even want to get into the COVID vaccine topic. That's just a cesspool of both sides of the track. Downvote me, sure, but please, someone tell me they actually care. And here's the number one comment. I get it, man, I get it. News fatigue, depression, anxiety, negativity. The world is burning as we speak. But here's some fucking liberalism for you. There's a lot of people who care. A lot of people who help. A lot of people who aren't just standing by. It's not all sweepingly huge gestures, incrementalism. Watch for people that pick up litter that isn't theirs, incrementalism. People that wait for someone to catch up while they hold the door open. People that smile. People that let you into the lane. Each time you see something small but positive, just remember, are you going to post about it? People only post about what's bothering them usually. A bad day, an incident, observations, and negative state of things, constant complaining and conspiracies and ugliness. I ended up unfollowing a ton of subreddits that brought me down because I've had enough, right? Just plug the ears, bury your head in the sand. Find some things that make you smile regularly. Incrementalism, ignorance is bliss, liberalism in a nutshell. Is the world sunshine and rainbows? Fuck no. But does that mean there are no sunshine or rainbows anywhere? Not at all. Just don't lose sight of the trees for the forest. Sometimes seeing the day-to-day little unimportant things is enough to let you know the big picture isn't always as bad as it seems. Right? Just like liberal pandering. Right? Straight up liberal pandering. Just like, don't worry, folks. We're all in this together. Everything's going fine. Get rid of the stuff that's making you feel down, even if it's accurate. You know, just do the little things. Smile a little more. Pep yourself up. Fucking all this bullshit liberalism, right? It's and this is why I, like, for real, what I just read here, this is why I consider liberals just as dangerous as conservatives. This whole fucking mindset is just as dangerous as saying, like, la 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 doesn't exist. It's just as dangerous. Because the guy who's saying there is no climate change, it doesn't exist, right? What truly is the difference between the guy who is saying that and saying, oh, sure, climate change exists, but just, like, focus on the little things. Incremental change, right? Yep, sounds like Trudeau's sunny ways. Exactly. It's just total fucking bullshit. It doesn't help. It is meaningless. And to people who are actually attempting to resolve these problems, which can only be resolved by resolving them and not focusing on the idiotic incrementalism of the liberals, These people sound like they have a mental illness, right? Literally, what is this guy arguing for, right? What is this guy arguing for? Stop paying attention, right? Delude yourself. Just focus on the little things. Ignorance is bliss. Vote liberal. That's what this guy sounds like. It's getting obvious. This is just, I just got to keep saying that over and over again, right? It's getting more and more obvious. It's getting obvious that, like, the conservatives are terrifying death cultists and that the liberals are just burying their heads in the sand. Like, it's just getting completely obvious. And we're seeing more and more people come out with these statements. And why should we settle? That's exactly right, Ruth. Why should we settle? Like, eventually the populace has got to realize that this is not a negotiation, right? That for the last 10 years, I have seen a society that has actively believed that we are in a negotiation. And it isn't a negotiation, right? It's not a negotiation between the populace and the capitalists. It's not a negotiation between the society and the sun. This is not a negotiation. And your stupid incrementalism, this moronic idea that we can negotiate with the sun, is only going to burn us down. Like, and in my view, it's as dangerous as saying there is no problem in the first place, because the result is the same, right? Oh, but we got rid of plastic straws. We got rid of plastic bags. Maybe the sun won't burn us down now, right? Because we got rid of plastic straws and plastic bags, right? Sun doesn't give a fuck about that. It's going to burn you down all the same, right? And this moronic, like, simpering is what it is. It's just simpering and, like, wishful thinking. It's just as magical as what the conservatives are doing. And I hope that this translates at the polls. Like, I hope that this downward trend that we're seeing here, I hope that downward trend manifests itself and it just keeps on going down as people realize that, like, this moronic, simpering, idiotic, incrementalist ideal that is being talked about in the populace is childish, right? That if I met this guy on the street and I said this to this guy, and where I was like, hey, I'm concerned about the future of our country. Does people not actually care anymore? And he said that shit to me, I would call him a fucking idiot to his face. Because he's a fucking moron. That's a stupid ass thing to say, right? Like, just, he's not saying mobilize. He's not saying fight back. He's not saying, hey, let's focus on actual solutions, right? He's not doing any of that. It's just you know, just be neighborly and pat on the back. Yeah, everything will be fine. Don't worry about it. Just stop paying attention, right? Just put your head down. Everything will be totally fine. Yeah. What's a guy like this going to sound like when his fucking crops light up, do you think? What's a guy like this going to sound like when his town starts to burn down? What do you think this guy's going to be saying? What do you think this guy's going to be sounding like this when his city starts to actually burn down? Do you think he's going to keep this up? Can you imagine talking to a guy like this? Like, imagine you were living in the town of Lytton, British Columbia, right? One of the towns that burnt down because of the climate change issue that we've been completely ignoring. Imagine that there was a guy while that town was burning down saying this kind of shit. What would you think about that guy? You would think he's a fucking moron. Because he is a fucking moron. Because he's a liberal. Right? I'm so done with it. Like, I'm so done with it. We need to nationalize the fossil fuel industry. And if we can't stomach nationalizing the fossil fuel industry, we got to grab that carbon tax and we got to fucking pull the lever down. 20%, 40%, 80%, we're done. Has to happen over 4 years and it has to happen now. Right? But we got these fucking liberals in here. These fucking dopey ass, stupid ass, moronic, like, walking around being like, yeah, I'll promote benefits for struggling workers I've already cut. Like, and we shouldn't settle. Why should we? Why should we? Like, we are getting to the point now where it is, like, it is as clear as A Bug's Life, right? Right? It's a DreamWorks movie where like there's a bunch of crickets that are oppressing a bunch of ants, and the ants suddenly realize, wait a minute, there's way more ants than there are crickets, and they all get together and they get rid of the crickets. It's become that apparent. It's become that straightforward. And like, the idea that there is no one in the discourse saying that the fossil fuel industry needs to be nationalized is a crisis unto itself. The idea that no one is saying that we need to have zero emissions in 5 years is a crisis in and of itself. The idea that we're still allowing this blackface lunatic idiot who's walking around saying things like she-cession and she-covery in this moronic, cynical pandering to a group of people who obviously are so deluded that they might as well be denialists is astounding. Like, this guy has no fucking credibility whatsoever. He's bought pipelines. He's walking around saying, oh yeah, we need to keep doing fossil fuels because that's how we'll get green energy. Like, yeah, we need to keep doing heroin because that's how we'll stop doing heroin. Like, it's so childish and stupid, and we keep voting for it. Yeah, sure, the world is burning, John, but rainbows and picking up garbage, a liberal. Get fucked. Like, get fucked. Like, it's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. That the people who own this society will gladly watch it burn down. They don't even care about their own children. I can't stress this enough. The people that own this society do not even care about their own children. They will happily walk through the door of their own death and look behind them and watch the place burn down and see their own children screaming in pain and agony and walk through and be like, I don't have to deal with it. That's 100% what's happening. And if you think otherwise, you're either a dumbass conservative or a deluded fucking liberal. Like, stop voting for these guys. Like, I just don't understand how it's become this difficult to see. I don't understand. Like, I feel like I'm constantly and perpetually talking to that battered housewife that refuses to leave her husband, right? That's the relationship that I have. That I'm like literally looking at a battered housewife, being like, "Hey, you can come live at our place, right? I've got a spare room. We can help you out there, get you on your feet, right? Just get away from this guy." Right? There's all kinds of services. We can help you do any of this kind of stuff. We'll help you rebuild your life. You just got to get away from this guy. And she's like, no. And she just keeps getting beat up by this guy. That's the relationship that I feel like I'm having with the populace right now, where I'm desperately trying to tell these guys, hey, break up with this guy. Break up with both these guys. Get rid of these conservatives. Get rid of these liberals. Why are you letting yourself get beat up like this? Like, what the fuck is the story? And this, like, sunny ways attitude, get the fuck right out of here. Your children aren't going to be happy with you because you're walking around being like, yeah, just pick up garbage and rainbows. Like, they're not going to be happy with you about that. Like, maybe actually give a shit about your own children. The people that own this place don't. And they don't even care about their own children. Right? They'll happily watch the crops burn. They'll happily watch the wildfires spread. They'll happily watch the sea levels rise. They don't give a fuck at all. They don't give a fuck. As long as the billboards in Dundas Square are lit up, as long as the interstate is constantly lit up like a candle, as long as they can shoot themselves into space whenever they feel like it, they're happy. They don't give a fuck about anyone but themselves. And we keep voting for their people who they own. It's time to grow up. Like, it's just time to grow up. And if you like that, please be sure to like, share, subscribe. I got a Patreon down below. Got to support some actual leftists in this goddamn place. Because we got these fucking deluded, like, everything will be fine, just rainbows and lollipops. Fuck. Ugh. Well, we are coming to the end of this one, guys. looks like I'm getting a job for the weekend, which is actually really good news. I'm going to be able to get a bit of a supplemental income. And because it's only going to be a part-time job, I'm still going to be getting some benefits from the CRB and unemployment. And so with the weekend job and the income that I'm getting from the channel, because there is a bit of an income from the channel already, which is great, I think I'll still be able to keep doing the live stream, which is a big win, for me. That I was really, really worried that I was going to have to sell myself back to the capitalists and that I was going to have to sacrifice the live stream for doing it. That doesn't look like it's going to be the case. And the job that I'm getting is actually pretty decent. I know people there already. Hopefully, it's it's just a cafe job. That's it. I used to be a barista, and these days you got to take what you can get. But the real benefit of the job is that the base pay is what you expect of a cafe job, but the tips, because the clientele is rich folks, right? And it's actually going to fit really perfectly because all of the people that work there don't really like talking to the community, don't really like talking to the people. It's part of the job, and so they have to do it. But everybody I've talked to is like, yeah, I really don't. I just wish I could just put my head down and make drinks and like just get through it. Whereas you guys me, I'm a talker, right? I'm a talker, and so their plan is to just put me on till and let everybody else kind of do the work around. So I'm like, okay. Works for me, bud. Works for me. And that also gives me the beneficial position of being able to kind of like, because it's tip work, because there's tips involved, it does mean that like that is that classic like do a little extra and get rewarded a little extra, and that does actually manifest itself. So hopefully. That's just a little update for you guys on the health of the channel, that it looks like the live stream is going to survive the transition for me back into the death cult, which is good. I hope it goes well too. I don't see why it shouldn't. The people I know there are really good people. They rather enjoy the job as it stands. Work is work and you got to do what you got to do, but like, barista work and cafe work is and it's a good way to just like talk to people on the regular, and like, I also do think like there is this kind of spirit that's going on throughout the wealthy where they are finding a way to justify giving money through tipping. That I'm talking to a lot of waiters and waitresses and people like this who are saying, yeah, like their tips have actually gone up because you've got a lot of wealthy people who are starting to feel that kind of guilt, like if you make like $1 million a year because you own some properties and you're like a landlord, right? Yeah, you're gonna feel a bit of heat as these workers are actually doing work for your benefit, So I hope it goes well. I hope you guys are doing really well out there. I hope that everything is going your way. Yeah, it is kind of pathetic. Like, it's pathetic that we have to get grown adults to make fucking people drinks and get people pastries and shit, right? Like, that kind of... there is a dignity to be found in service work. The last job I had was working in a toy store, and that was a real lesson that I learned from the manager of that place, is that there is dignity in service work, that you can find dignity and be a dignified individual, and understand that you are serving and that you are providing a service. Which is alleviating something. Oh, that's so nice to hear, Misty. That's so nice to hear. Well, and guys, like, you guys being here means a lot to me. It really does. I'm really looking forward for the shitty weather because I think that'll incentivize people to come into the live stream more. This nice weather is just killing me. is just killing me. Okay, guys. Always remember, each and every one of you is a divine being standing in divine energy. These billionaires spend hundreds of billions of dollars to get you to forget that and ignore that, instead of spending a single penny to help you. Don't let them. Good luck. We're going to need it.